Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are back with the weirdest, wildest, most fun Wednesday competition for Clash Royale out there. The Royale Masters King of the Hill. Andrew, we've been doing these all year, and it keeps on getting more and more stressful, more and more fun, and we get some more different views on new players every time.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really excited for some of the players we have today. We have a returning King of the Hill champion in our good friend Doom. And of course, Igor, Hazardy, or not Hazard, sorry. I mean, I guess he's been called that at one point. He's back again, and he's been in the top 3 numerous times. And we also have Remy Eli here today, which is cool. I know we're going to see the players in just a minute, but I love King of the Hill. It's my favorite Clash time of the month when we're not talking CRL because who knows? 24 matches, anything can go. Let's get into the format. Let's talk this through, you guys, so we can just get into the matches. Guys, it is Royale Masters King of the Hill edition. It's a best of 1, and of course, we played a qualifier to figure out your order. How does it start? Well, the person in the first seed gets to play the person in the second seed. If you win, you stay in. If you lose, you go to the end of the line. We played through 24 matches. You get $100 every single time that you lose, and hopefully, every player will get 3 chances to play. However, if you go on a run like we've seen Doom or Igor do in the past, you might only get 2 opportunities because you have so many wins. Oh, and by the way, $3,000 on the line for this, Rich. That's the other thing that I feel like maybe doesn't get enough attention is $3,000 every time we do this King of the Hill thing. It's super fun. It's low stakes. You get to play against the best people in the world, and there's a great cash prize.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it being low stakes, it doesn't affect whether you make CRL World Finals or not. But $3,000, $100 a game, those are stakes that I think most people have never actually played for. And you think about that, one wrong placement or one phenomenal push, and next thing you know, your 1/10 of rent is taken care of, or maybe 1/20th, depending on what city you live in.
I was like, not in LA, baby.
Not in Los Angeles, yeah. 1/100th of your rent is taken care of in Los Angeles, right? So it's a pretty significant prize pool, and every single game, just a best of 1 for $100. That's one of those ones where if someone busted that out on you, you'd be like, okay, all right, I guess we're playing with fire today.
Oh, I'd be stressing. I mean, you and I were just joking about even one person watching you, spectating when you're playing. Now you add in money. Now you add in all the people online. Let's take a look at our competitors, right? I think we have a list of people that are going to be here today. And like we said, Doom, there he is at the very, very top, our former world finalist. He's won back in April. I think he's got 2nd and 3rd place as well. Igor, Sosa, so we got a world champion, a world finalist. Then we got Hugo, a guy that I actually thought was going to have a much bigger 2023, Rich. But I'm really excited that he's here. And then, of course, Remy Eli, right? The guy that is known for being the best in the world with the Remy Eli deck.
Yeah, the deck, it's yet to be in kind of rarefied air to have a deck that's named after you. And a deck that's named after you that's not just like kind of a junk ladder deck or a gimmick deck, but one that is central to the meta of competitive Clash Royale. Potentially Rip Magic Archer, but other than that, that's a different type of player when you create a deck that's known as yours like that.
You know what? We got time. This is King of the Hill. Let's talk. What do you think about that Magic Archer nerf? Do you think it's one of those things that is like too many people that don't play at the highest level get taken advantage of too regularly because they're not willing to just count the 4 cards and then block at the bridge? Or do you think it's actually a needed change?
I think that the little kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a glitch or whatever it is that extended the range. Tower. Yeah, I think that and a King Tower activation that was easier for the Magic Archer is a good thing, but the little extra range changes some interactions. I think that might have pushed it over the edge a little bit. I think the overall meta of Clash Royale is better when the Magic Archer is a viable card and is a viable piece to put into lots of different decks. It's not, I don't think it's insanely OP. I hope that these don't kill the Magic Archer and that it's still a viable card. And I think that, to answer your question, it really is one of the cards that separates the wheat from the chaff, right? At a high-level player is often good at controlling the Magic Archer at the bridge, picking up its aggro, not letting stuff connect to tower, but it's not necessarily, if you're not used to that, it can be even more powerful than the primary win condition in so many decks when you're a mid-level player playing against a good player with it.
Yeah, and, you know, I think I agree with everything that you're saying there. I wonder if it would have just been great if that weird little glitch just went away, and we just, because now I think it was like a half tile, and it feels like they're adjusting a whole tile, so is it like an overcorrection? I guess we'll just see. I completely agree that the Magic Archer should and should always be a great win condition because it's not easy, right? Oh, and we're about to hop into game. We were just waiting on players there. It's not easy to get those lineups, and you watch the best players in the world couple it with NATO, and you're like, wow, that's how you really play NATO. That's how you aggressively play Magic Archers at the bridge. So anyway, that was our little TED Talk on Magic Archers, and if you guys want to look at the work in progress balance changes, go check them out online.
And if you want to look at my TED Talk, I will be at South by Southwest this year talking about Clash Royale to nobody for quite a long time.
I could have sworn you're going to say disc golf, but you impressed me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would do either TED Talk, and it would last longer than it should. But maybe it'd go viral. Who knows?
So here we go. We talked about this a good amount just the other day when we were having the pleasure of casting Royale Masters Gold Edition, Dual Edition. I can't remember what we're calling it, but you guys know it's Royale Masters Traditional. Thank you so much there, Tasty Bacon. These Knight, NATO, Executioner decks have become really, really popular, although not usually with Tombstone.
Yeah, that's an interesting wrinkle into it, but yes, they're certainly powerful, especially against in the hands of a player like Igor, who's been so good at control for so long, and obviously who's really talented with Minor. This is the kind of deck that you imagine Igor loves to play, just because it gives you almost like some trolley opportunities, but also phenomenal control, and if you do it right, some big outplay burst opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of damage that you can do with an Executioner coupled with a NATO on top of that tower, and right now he's just letting it go. Executioner does not retarget. I think if he hit the ability, the Monk would still reflect it, even though he wasn't aiming at the Monk, but that's exactly what you're talking about, man. It is insane how much that Exi can stack up, how quickly it does. And to go back to your point here, you know, the 3 Elixir Tombstone, a little faster there on the cycle than other buildings. That is kind of Igor's bread and butter in terms of just loving to control the game with fast cycle.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about this deck. We kind of already seen some of the keys to playing against it. Obviously, if he gets into, whoa, he's going Graveyard instead.
I was just going to say, with the cards around it, you would think it could be Graveyard with the Ice Spirit, because that's usually not, like, coupled or with the Tombstone. Like, it just felt weird, man.
Yeah, it was strange all around. It turns out it's Graveyard, but it doesn't matter. This is all Xe all day. And is he running triple spell? Is there a direct damage dealing spell here, or does Igor have to get on tower? Doom so far trying to break through an Ice Spirit NATO Tombstone. Not to mention the Evo Knight. This has been real rough.
And then the Xe is so great for cleaning up Royal Giants, because we all know how RG works. It's kind of pile up everything behind it. And I think the other thing that Igor did really well here, and it's honestly not even that impressive when you're talking about the highest level players, but it is when you're talking about people like me. Just playing against Royal Giant in single Elixir, he did a really good job of never overextending and knowing that Doom was going to go with the hyper-aggressive the second Royal Giant, the evolved Royal Giant, in single Elixir. I'm not sure if that's happened to you a good amount, Rich, but to me, I find that if I don't play incredibly conservative in single Elixir against Evo RG, they love to go hyper-aggressive with that Evo RG at the bridge when I have like maybe 4 Elixir in the tank.
Sure, I mean, that's the idea, especially now that Evo RG is so much more powerful, and that's why you're seeing people play Royal Giant really early in a game, much earlier than they used to, and that's just to get back around and get themselves other evolved Royal Giant into the mix. So yeah, we've seen people start to open Royal Giant behind King Tower as first play, which is a thing people never did in the old Royal Giant days. So again, that's we talked about this before, Evos that change how you play the card. I do think that the Evo RG has, definitely was too strong. It's still a little bit strong, but the fact that it does kind of change some of the rhythm of Royal Giant decks is compelling.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where I was trying to go, and because of our conversation we had just the other day, 100%. I think it's super cool to see Royal Giant played in a different way, because it did feel like when you played against Royal Giant in the past, you knew exactly what you were going to get once you figured out what the deck was compiled of. Now, the hyper-aggressive Royal Giants in single have made it more fun to cast, maybe less fun to play against. But anyway, here we go. Igor up 1 game. Sosa, a world finalist here in 2023 at the bottom of your screen.
And I see in the chat, X3rd on YouTube asking, who's this Igor they're talking about? K Hazard Y Kazardi, however you want to say it. That is the new account name of longtime Clash Royale pro player Igor, who won the 2019 World Championship as part of Team Liquid with a phenomenal, legendary performance, and is one of the top 3 all-time ranked / ladder players in the history of Clash Royale.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Which is pretty funny because it's a totally fair question to ask, because he hasn't gone by Igor since what feels like back then, right? It's been years now since it feels like we've seen Igor on the screen, and more reasons to that, but it is just kind of funny. We've been doing this for so long. That question is actually completely legitimate when you're talking about that old world champion.
And we are streaming both on Twitch and YouTube. Those of you in the Twitch chat, don't worry, we see you as well. Twitch.tv/RoyaleMSTRS, Royale Masters, if you want to check us out on Twitch. Of course, we are also right here on YouTube as well.
And Mother Witch, she's back. She's been showing up quite a bit. She's in game 1 and in game 2 here. And Igor going with bait. Always fun to see him play these faster cycle decks.
Very curious to see how this works out against this Goblin Giant beatdown deck. This is going to be very interesting. Has the Fireball and going to get some value here and there. The Rage, more effective nowadays with the damage it does, as you can see, ruining the Goblin Gang right there for a positive trade. And not to mention the Mother Witch. So this will be interesting to see how Igor fares against this very popular new Goblin Giant.
Yeah, so is the last card there, it's Mini P.E.K.K.A instead of Sparky? Or could it still be Spark?
I don't know if that version runs Sparky. I'll have to go take a look.
Yeah, I mean, because there is the version that has just the Dark Prince and the Mini P.E.K.K.A, but obviously the minions and the Mother Witch. I can't remember all those different versions, but it almost feels like it could, because Sosa's not playing that final card, knowing that Rocket is probably Igor's final card.
Well, I know that Igor has been running the Igor/Hazard has been running the Mini P.E.K.K.A variation of this one a whole lot. I don't know if Sosa's been running it very much, but I think the Mini P.E.K.K.A version is a little bit more popular. But keep in mind that there aren't a lot of single-target DPS things to use the Mini P.E.K.K.A on it. There you go. Now that the Evolved Knight is in deep, he gets a chance to use it, but then of course you see the Mini P.E.K.K.A struggle against all the swarmy troops. So it's kind of it's an interesting situation where this is a really powerful part of the deck, but there's not a lot of wonderful opportunities to use it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to if you have the Dark Prince back in cycle, the Knight back in cycle, and like you were talking about, no big single target unit other than that Evo Knight. So, yeah, it made sense either way, whether it was the Sparky holding for the Rocket or the Mini P.E.K.K.A holding for a better target. Now we find a good Goblin Giant push coming on the right-hand side, and oh no, it doesn't go more on the left. It just gets a Fireball in.
This is interesting. Can he get the Dark Prince freed from this bomb tower? Instead, it pulls over into that same right-hand lane. Good pressure on both sides by Sosa, who, again, is having a real big breakout year. He's been a solid competitor for a couple of years now, but this year, between his performances and events like this one, and obviously making it to CRO World Finals, he's certainly beginning to really expand on his reputation as a top-tier competitive player.
Yeah, and you can see right there doing a really good job against the defense there. Igor sending a huge swarm on the right-hand side, knowing that Goblin Gang really is kind of a trouble card when the Prince isn't high enough, and just created good pressure with that. Sosa doesn't bite too hard, does give up a good amount of damage on the left-hand side, now getting very, very close to Rocket range. Although Rocket, 317 now, I believe, is what it does, which is, or 371, one of the two. Not as much as it used to, so he's not 2 rockets away.
And that's, I think, maybe a little, you're talking about the numbers there. I was talking about this the other day, kind of a lost skill here is players really knowing their magic number, right? At 371, there you go, that's going to be good for the win for Igor. And of course, if anyone's going to be running some Rocket to finish off games, Igor's one of those guys. But I remember that we used to talk about about knowing your magic number in CRL 2018, right? What's the 2 Rockets plus log? What's that value? And I think that because players aren't one-tricking as much, a lot of players we've seen maybe more spell value fails, and a lot of players aren't knowing their magic number for each deck the way that maybe you would expect.
Yeah, it's it is interesting, right? Because I mean, obviously changes happen in the game. Nerfs come in on cards, rocket gets changed, poison gets changed, blah 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 blah. So that makes sense. But I still think at the end of the day, you should know the magic number for all the decks that you're playing. I mean, you know, you should know the double arrows, even if you're gonna, you know, mirror them. You know, things like that. As weird as it is, like if you're at the highest level, you should know that. And we used to, you know, Eric used to talk to us all the time. You know, coach of team that we're talking about with Igor on it, that he would have his players grind those numbers. He would have them basically like do math sheets almost. You know, he'd ask them questions. How much is a rocket plus a fireball? Well, those two cards are never together. Well, it doesn't matter. Do the math. Well, how much is it? And I agree. It's like a weirdly lost art form, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why exactly it is. I don't think it's just because of the changes, of the balance changes.
And I see the comment, who doesn't know the spell damage? That feels like essential knowledge. And I think all these players pretty much know their spell damage, but what don't necessarily know is what's their
combination.
Their combination, right? They don't remember, hey, what's 2 rockets plus log, or what's fireball log fireball, that sort of thing. So,
you know, and to kind of add to that point, I don't remember. I mean, I remember what it used to be, but I don't know exactly off the top of my head what 2 rockets are anymore, right? Whereas I used to, but after the nerf happened, and I don't play rocket a lot, you know, it's just one of those magic numbers that I don't have in my base knowledge anymore, which is kind of sad in my opinion. I should probably learn that.
I was gonna say, here's what you want to see, Andrew. It's Igor playing Mortar.
Yep.
And no other commentary necessary.
Nope, not at all. One of my favorite versions of it too. I love guards. I love bats. They're still my 2 of my favorite cards in the game. That are, I mean, bats now with the Evo on the rise. You know, we're gonna see, or on the horizon, I should say. Very curious to see what that Evo looks like for bats. Do they add a little poison? Right? Bats have like rabies or something. Does it do like little poison damage over time on the unit? Does it stack damage over time? Does it? Who knows? Do they start to multiply like the skeletons do? I'm very curious to see what happens with bats.
Do they turn into a vampire, kind of like Mortis from Brawl Stars, and then start, you know, hypnotizing other troops or sucking their blood? Who knows? But I'm excited.
It'd be cool if we got like a lifesteal unit that gave your tower HP back somehow.
Oh,
I don't know how.
That'd be bananas. I do see OK in the YouTube chat saying, why are there evolutions in esports? And it's because the esports try to reflect the game experience as much as possible. So if players weren't playing with EVOs in esports, then their normal gameplay day-to-day wouldn't be good practice for competitive, and it'd be kind of a weird alternative meta they'd all have to practice separately, and it wouldn't reflect the game that you're playing at home.
Yeah, which is the whole point of what happened just a couple of years ago with all the competitive scene, which is this is the era. Now it's beyond the era. Now it's just the game for everyone. Literally anyone in the world can pick up Clash Royale, play it, figure out what the game's like, and then come and play the exact same game in competitive, which is really, really important to get other people, like the people in chat, involved.
Igor just trying to play some shutdown defense so far, not working out in his favor. Hugo, the Frenchman, with an early lead, but not a significant one. And for those of you who... Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like a little frustrating if you're Igor when you look at just that E-Spirit and the log, how much they can really do against your bats plus your guards. Like the fact that you can help in that log exactly is what Igor, I think, was looking for, to get those bats protected, get that early log in, predict the E-Spirit. Now the guards can come down. Now the E-Spirit plus the log doesn't kill your guards. Your bats are still alive. Beautiful play there.
And he just forced a lot of elixir out of Hugo, which will essentially take them back to even. He'd fallen behind a little bit, but you saw the perfect timing of that Archer Queen ability, forced the Fisherman out, and it got wasted. So very, very nice play here. He still is behind Hugo, who finished the regular season 29th overall in Clash Royale League. And if you take out the 7 golden ticket players, that would be 22. So just a few spots out of... a few good performances out of making it to Worlds. Doing a good job here against Igor so far.
It's really crazy because it felt like Hugo was so much farther away than that, just because we didn't really see him in the trenches at the end of the month when it came to monthly finals. But when you talk about the points, which is another great part of, you know, how we've adjusted who gets into CRL World Finals, it's a guy that, you know, consistency has really paid off for him. He just needs a couple of those big hits. You need to have a couple home runs if you want people to talk about you at the end of the day. And I feel like Hugo just missed on the home runs, I guess, in 2023.
Yeah, you know what? I need to double check, but I believe that every player who's made it to World Finals made at least one monthly. I can't say that for 100% off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Just Ethan, C. Not sure how to say it, but who would you say is the most rising star in Clash Royale as of right now? It's a great question. We'll get to that after this RG push. A couple shots do come in, 11:51, 14:25. Igor still behind. Has him in the spell power race technically, but as you get into this deeper triple elixir, that RG can be really tough. So now we're going to go for that full sellout. Miner comes in, double poison comes down, and Igor should be able to take it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the getting there at the end. Having the Archer Queen so you can do that 3-card cycle, get poisons down, and that's the difference at the end. Not a huge one. Take a look at this. Less than one poison was the difference in Igor managing 3-card cycle at the end, and one of the big impacts of those evolutions is people are not playing the champions as much, and so that 3-card cycle ends up being a difference maker in this one.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we talked about with our good friend Ruben the other day in Royale Masters Traditional, just going, you know, he really felt like he was trying to force champions in with evolutions, and you understand why, because of how strong they can work together. But it's interesting because even when we saw it happen here, it wasn't using the AQ so that you could get more Evo and Mortars on the board. It was doing what we used to do when we used to play with champions, which is, holy crap, we're in triple elixir. I can poison you like 5 times in triple elixir, and I can get like 6 miners down, which is something a lot of times, if you're not exactly sure how to end that game, you have a champion, just cycle it in the back if you don't need it up front, and then really turn up and ramp up that pressure. Really, really great stuff there from Igor on a nice run so far.
Yeah, I mean, and what else would you expect from a guy who's been this good? Honestly, if Igor had been, I think, able to participate the entire year, there's a very good chance that he would have made it to World Finals overall. You know, he wasn't able to participate all the time, ended up 36th overall, minus that 7, so 29th overall on the leaderboards, and that was with very little participation in CRL this year. So hopefully we'll see him back next year at full form, because he definitely shows that when he's in rhythm, he's still a phenomenal player.
So a couple things here to get to in the chat. How can we participate in this match? Well, we tell you guys every single time, all the great socials on screen. You can see them right there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Go follow Royale Masters at any of those locations, but I'll tell you right now, Twitter and Discord are probably the 2 best to go, at least in terms of getting involved. Obviously, Twitch and YouTube for watching, but those Discords or the Discord and the Twitter always has all the information that you guys need about how to join in on Royale Masters King of the Hill, Royale Masters Traditional, or even Summer Clash, which was a blast that we did earlier this year.
And to answer the question about the new player who kind of an up-and-comer, this has been a crazy year for Pedro, who not only got his golden ticket, but had multiple great performances in monthly finals, not to mention what Pedro did on ranked this year, multiple seasons, having multiple accounts in the top 10. So I think Pedro's a really good candidate for breakout player of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a really great call. I'm going to go with just recency bias because it's fun. After what we did with Royale Masters Traditional, we're here at Royale Masters again. Kick Ash, Clown. I know he's working with Jebas now. Got number 1 and number 2 with Mo. Kick Ash with the decks that he brought and the gameplay against the best in the world in Mohamed Light, all the way to a best of 5. I know it's recency bias. I know that he has a lot more to prove, even though he got very close to getting to World Finals this year. I was really, really impressed. And I think if you have someone as good on your team as Jebas to help you pick decks, yeah, I don't know. That seems like a fun player to watch.
That's a really good call out as well. He made it. He was number 9. Remember, top 7 on points at the end of the season. Go to Worlds. Yeah. He finished 9th. And if he had just made it a little bit further, he was 5 wins away from being a qualifier for World Finals. Right?
And you're talking, I think you were saying this during the broadcast, you're saying like 5 wins in almost any stage, right?
Yeah.
Like Swiss yeah.
Mm-hmm. Total crazy. Over the course of the season, 5 more wins.
Yeah, 5 games. That's 15 minutes or 25 minutes up to, I guess, 20 minutes. 25, wow, I can do math.
Yeah.
Minutes of Clash Royale at most. Well, I think next year could be their year.
Well, speaking of someone who might be trying to make a push next year, Alexi up against Igor here. Finished the season ranked 125th on our CRL leaderboard. Does have a number 1 finish in the global tournament, doing during one of the triple elixir seasons for global tournaments, so certainly has shown that he has a pretty solid level overall when he can pull it out. And on top of that, a number 3 finish in normal global tournaments. So certainly a talented player. We'll see if he can add more to that in our upcoming year.
Yeah, and a really, really great send here. He gets a good connection on the right-hand side, does well against Igor's big-time push with the flying machine tucked away behind the Royal Piggies, is able to control the Piggies, able to get that NATO in on the flying machine to not take too much damage, and then is able to connect with the Executioner plus the poison on the right-hand side. So a really, really nice start here for Alexi, someone that, you know, honestly, I'm always a little bit wary when I see a name that I don't know as much go up against a legend in the game and they're running something like Minor Control, but a great job so far.
Certainly a great job so far, and playing, you know, not the most basic of decks to play. This is that Minor Xe NATO control deck that we were talking about earlier. Just so happens that he's getting the matchup here against Barbs and Pigs with both the Bomb Tower and the Xe. So certainly got a good pick here, and Igor switching up to Fireball bait, just kind of running into a very difficult situation.
Yeah, you know, that Xe with the NATO ends up so that you don't really need that Fireball as much when you're running into Fireball bait, whether it's the Bomb Tower or just the NATO to pull everything to the Executioner. That the NATO plus the Xe combo is becoming insanely strong. I'm very curious to see if people are going to start clamoring for a nerf or anything. Big pressure here on the left-hand side. That Mother Witch tanked for, and Flying Machine does get picked up.
Yep, and now Poison to clear that, but Pigs come behind. Igor has to be careful about this Xe on the right-hand side. Does go cage high, but now Alexi's getting to the point where he just needs to get a little bit of minor chip, and he can spell this out,
Yeah, I mean, log, NATO, poison. We don't know our magic number. We just talked about that. And you can see Igor doing a classic Igor there, Rich. Phone down. We're on to the next one.
Yeah, I didn't like the arrows on the Minor on the left-hand side. That kind of already waved the white flag there. And it's one of those questions where I don't know, but it feels like Igor didn't look up Alexi on Royale API, because his second most played deck, actually tied for first most played deck, or second most played deck, is the exact deck that we just saw in recent days. So that's definitely one of those ones that I would have been keeping an eye out for. Lots of NATO, lots of X, lots of NATO splash. So kind of put himself into a challenging spot here.
Yeah, and you see the matchup there, whether you're talking 7 or 6 cards, it's basically a 60-40, and if you are apparently comfortable with that deck, which it seems that Alexi is, that might move that a little bit more in favor of the deck that has all the control, the NATO, the log, the poison, the bomb tower. I mean, honestly, there was even moments there where it felt like Alexi didn't even have to play at the best of his ability because he had so many options. There was a point on the right-hand side where there was like a Mother Witch, Flying Machine, and Piggies coming in, and he didn't even have to drop the Bomb Tower in the center of the lane to worry about the Death Bomb cleaning up everything else, because he already put the poison down. He already had the Ice Spirit come in. There's just so many ways to control what Igor had. But a great start for Igor, and we have a new King of the Hill here now, what, four games in?
Yeah, you know, Igor, a good start to kick things off. 4 games down so far. And then now Igor's going to go back to the end of the line, and we'll get him back in the mix again later. But a nice 3-game start for Igor, $300, plus the 75 you get simply for qualifying. That's a great way to kick off your Wednesday here. And now Alexi has a chance to not just take that 100 he's got so far, but continue to add to that one in a match again of the lesser-known players here in our competition. Takuya coming up next.
Yeah, someone that we just talked about again with RoyaleMSTRS Traditional last week. We were wondering, is that do we know? No, we don't know who this is. But so you go and you look at what they've done, and honestly, they had a little bit of showing in CRL this year. They ended up 155th, which is, you know, obviously a lot farther back than most of the players that we end up talking about. But still, you know, this player from Japan has shown that they are in the competitive scene. They showed up in Summer Class in the Heist, Sudden Death. They got 8th place in both of those. And then otherwise, they've been within the top 60 in a couple CRL monthly finals.
Sure, and then on top of that, this is a player who has made multiple top 100 and even a few top 20 finishes on ranked and or ladder. So certainly capable. That's no easy feat. Anytime you crack the top 100 is very good. You get into top 20, now you're starting to get to a very high level, and a level where you're able to hold on in a stressful situation, right? Those
Yeah.
long ladder pushes, those long waits, and then who knows who you match up against. Those are pressure moments. So, you know, we talked again, referencing back to some of our favorite coaches, talking about Eric, talking about Luis, trainer Luis. A lot of them talked about how it's easy to turn. It can be easy to turn a really top tier ladder player into a good pro because they've already got micro and they've got the stress part managed.
Yes, yeah, and that's really the big part, that stress that you get, like you're talking about, Rich. I don't know how long you've ever had to wait. The longest I've ever had to wait for a game is like a few seconds. You know, you talk to that couple minutes playing against the best players in the world, that pressure just mounts massively. And I was just going to say, Takuya at the bottom of your screen here has been running this deck a lot if you look at their recent battles. So we'll see if Alexi was ready for that with this kind of beat down heavy deck, which, you know, I don't know this matchup on paper, but it does feel like it could be a tough one. Although I think he has one right here of this played recently. And yeah, I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure this is a massive favorable matchup for Alexi. You're going to see some early damage in on both sides, but I think when it comes to starting to control the map, especially in double elixir, Takuya's going to have to play some pretty incredible defenses without a big spell.
Yeah, that's gonna require some real special work, especially now as that raged up Sparky gets in deep. The Goblin Giant not going to get on tower, but the Sparky shot, and that is a huge blow to take very early in this game.
Yeah, looking at the numbers here, we have 3,600 examples of this with 7 cards or more and 28 examples of an exact match, and it's basically a 70-30 matchup, even more than that, 72-28. So this might be Takuya's comfort, although Takuya has played a lot of on-meta decks right now, whether it's Evolve Firecracker Hog, RG, Evo Barbs Lava, but right now it feels like he went to his most popular, and I think Alexi was looking for it. Just like what you were talking about in the previous matchup, Rich, where, you know, maybe Igor didn't look at Alexi's battle log.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups too where it kind of feels like you should have some okay options, right? The Evolved Knight, when it's moving, can absorb some of those Sparky shots. You have the Spears to distract, and you have this building to pull, but the reality is that it's really hard to DPS down the Sparky quickly enough, especially when in conjunction with that Goblin Giant. And it's shockingly, even though this deck cycles fairly quickly overall, it doesn't often do it enough to avoid those big problems. Now, this is nice for Takuya, forcing out the Fireball. Yeah. This is the kind of thing he needs to do. This is going to be a pressure, and look at that. Minor high. He was trying to predict and protect. It doesn't end up working out for him, though.
Yeah, that Mother Witch, if she came down, there would have been trouble for Takuya, so I like the draw, at least to get that Miner out, but unfortunately didn't work out, so then that Elixir kind of just goes by the wayside. And here we go, using Wall Breakers to soak up the first shot, then the Knight to soak up the second shot. Now needs to get something down to soak up the third, because it's not on the bomb tower, gets those spears down, and that's the thing, is like, look at the Elixir that just is poured out from Takuya, and while they're kind of even in Elixir, you got to remember that these pushes are a lot easier to control if you're talking about being Alexi, and then you get a good counter push every single time. So really tough spot here. 877 remaining. Takuya doing a great job so far.
And that's a lot of stuff a Fireball could all hit. Might have to NATO back, and does get the King Tower activation. Takuya is playing this about as well as you can. It's hard to do much better in this matchup.
I know, and it's so tough because Takuya can't really go opposite lane, because the moment you go opposite lane to try to create pressure, your opponent ignores it because you're far enough ahead and close enough to the end of the game, and that's when you just lose it. So this is, again, I got to play perfect defense over and over and over, and that was a really nice rage.
Yeah, the rages are great. Can Takuya just get enough here? The Miner is huge. Very close, and all it's going to take at the end is keep yourself in a position where you can get one good Magic Archer connection and beat out the Fireball at the end of this game. If you can keep playing this kind of defense, and right now, Takuya's doing exactly what he needs.
Yeah, and this is where Alexi starts to feel the pressure of knowing, okay, I don't have that direct damage other than the Fireball. I need to figure out a way to get this all the way through. And gets the second bomb tower down. Mini P.E.K.K.A is still very healthy. Fireball comes in and cleans everything up. Needs some, I was going to say, spears or wall breakers to cover that Sparky. And a big push on the right-hand side, Rich.
Yeah, interesting opposite lane push. Needs to NATO this
he
Goblin
misses
Giant
the bomb
away.
tower.
And he misses the NATO
NATO
on the Goblin Giant. Oh, no. Alexi doing everything he can. You have to be perfect in all those final moments, but perfection is often further away than you hope.
That's exactly what we're talking about at the beginning of that matchup, is just as you get deeper into double and triple elixir, there is really no room for error, and especially not back-to-back errors. If you're talking about missing a pull on a bomb tower, you gotta hit the NATO, and if you're not able to hit either of them, you gotta put your phone down and go to the back of the line. Really, really nice job there by Takuya, but just a couple of missteps at the end, and an easy win. It should have been for Alexi. He had to fight really hard for.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big fight he put up, and he was doing all the right things for so long in that matchup. But you're up against Goblin Giant Sparky Rage, and all it takes is one error, and we saw three. We saw the early Sparky connection, then we saw the missed bomb tower and the missed NATO concurrently.
Yeah.
Just bam, bam, back to back, and a valiant effort, but that's going to take you down. Let's go ahead and take a look at the way that final moment went down here, because this was just an absolute last-second swing. Andrew, he was so close to a beautiful performance.
I know. So you see that you got the Magic Archer here getting in some damage. He started to really place the Magic Archer on the right-hand side. He was going to turn this into a great push. Honestly, he protects the Magic Archer right there. Bomb tower comes down. But because the bomb tower comes down that early, look at where the Goblin Giant is placed. And I don't know if it... Oh no, this is a different push. I'm sorry. This is not towards the end. Bomb tower dies there at the end, pulls everything back, gets damage in. Second bomb tower comes down, and it feels like he's got the game controlled. And I think he's trying to put Ascend on the right-hand lane here. Yes, there it is. Knight comes down, Evo Knight, wall breakers behind, and here's the miss. Miner comes in, and then the bomb tower. It's just too low. It's too far to the side, and then you miss the pull with the NATO. I mean, he still could have saved the game if that NATO comes in. Yes, it's not the best defense, but you still have the bomb tower to pull it and DPS it down. So just a 1-2 punch there, maybe getting a little distracted by the push on the right-hand side, which I really did like. I did like the Evo Knight with the wall breakers behind. Probably could have gotten another Magic Archer down if things worked out just a little bit better.
I'm wondering if the miner took up the space the bomb tower was meant to go to, and if that was part of the problem. And now here we go. Alexi, 2 in a row, holds on, and now we'll see the man who invented the deck. Kind of surprised, a little surprised to see him going to it, but we might even be seeing a Remy Eli deck mirror match with the Master. Can Alexi outplay the creator of this very famous, very popular deck?
I know. I kind of love it, right? It's like, hey, man, if we're and Remy Eli is running the one without Magic Archers. So,
yeah,
you know, a little bit of a change up here. Going to be fun to see this. I love it. Alexi's like, you know what? You only get the opportunity to play this guy so many times. He'll probably play it. Let's have fun with a semi-mirror matchup, even though this is very different. Fireball, obviously, for the Magic Archer. No big spell at the top of your screen. NATO lineups. So a lot to be at play here.
And I was going to say, look at the Fireball choice here. I think that Remy might have expected Alexi to be going with his deck against him, right? How much would that be great for your content? How much would you flex on Twitter if you won against Remy Eli with his own deck? And I think that Remy picked that and went, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to do this. So he's running Fireball here to shut down the Magic Archers and really take a massive tool out of Alexi's belt.
Yeah, really, really curious too. I mean, honestly, if you guys at home play either of these decks, watch how they play them, right? I'm sure you'll get this mirror matchup a lot, or versions of this mirror match, and not really a lot better people to watch than Remy to see how you play through it.
And I see OZH saying in the YouTube chat, why would you want a mirror matchup with the inventor of the deck? For the flex, dude. Do it for the gram, you know what I mean? He just wants to post this because, again, that's the brag. So for many of these players, bragging rights are worth as much as, if not more than, the money on occasion.
And the other thing, Rich, was, you know, you talk about the Fireball instead of the poison. Look at the building, right? It's not a cannon, it's not a Tesla, it's not a bomb tower, it's an Inferno. Because, why? Because Evo Knight, that's why.
And minor wall breakers play on the right-hand side. Remy misses the Fireball on the second of the two.
And this is the lineup.
Wow.
That's game, dude. I mean, honestly, already that's game.
Tremendous lineup. Ooh. the slight knockback, and the Magic Archer should have gotten another 8 shots
more?
on tower.
Yeah.
And didn't.
And gets the King Tower activation there. Really, really nicely played. Not game. 18-17 top left, 19-17 bottom left. Didn't realize so much damage had gotten in on that left-hand side for Alexi by Remy. So that is my bad there. Usually a lineup like that monumental is the end of a mirror matchup with these two types of decks.
Well, I mean, that should have been another 700, 800 damage, at least.
Yeah.
And you know, if that was 8 shots, I think that's almost 900 to 1,000. So that should have been a ton more damage. Just wasn't. Just was a little half tile out of distance, and we're still close.
Yeah, we're really, really close here, and you wonder how many of those Magic Archers lineups are actually going to happen here for Alexi. You know, I feel like he really got away with one there because of what happened on the right-hand side of the map. 1365, 1672. 1 minute, 30 seconds remain.
And does get the Magic Archer with the Fireball. Good split lane, and this is really nice for Alexi to have the 2 lanes to play in at this moment and just create choices. And here we go, Magic Archer lineup one more time.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, that's an obvious lineup there. I'm shocked that Remy gave it to him.
Trying to battle back into this one, 949 to 667. Alexi, 60 seconds away from a phenomenal win over Remy Eli. NATO to pull back, and Fireball has to come out because he has to stop this Evolved Knight, and he just barely does.
Now the Wallbreaker Magic Archer lineup comes in. Magic Archer gets pushed, but the Inferno comes down, so of course Miner can come back around. That's the other thing about this deck, Rich. You know, you talk about, you know, picking the Fireball and picking that Inferno, but that Inferno makes your cycle a little bit more awkward. Wow, that Wallbreaker almost connected with the Fireball. That would have been insane. NATO to clean everything up. Miner is in for chips. Still needs more damage.
Miner wall breakers, this is the last opportunity. Can he get on? Fireball trying to make it. Remy trying to do it. Can he do it? And he does by 14 HP. What a steal. What a theft. Alexi, check your back pocket. I'm pretty sure your wallet's missing.
Oh my goodness. The pickups, the defense, the aggression there. Oh, wow. Everything kind of going correct for Remy at the end of that. Picking and choosing when to take damage. I mean, there's 40 seconds left in regulation. He eats double wall breakers on the right-hand side, gets that Magic Archer lineup on the left, and it feels like Remy's game is starting to slip out. But then over the next couple minutes, he just slowly crawls back into the game. You can see the chat losing their minds. That's why it's his deck, apparently.
I mean, he knew that at the end he needed to start doing those minor Fireball wall breaker sends, right? He needed to start getting everything through. And in those final moments, he made the decision on how he had to win. And Alexi was kind of like stuck between going wild on offense and holding on his defense. And pedal to the metal, Remy Eli goes and steals that one by a very slim margin.
Let's take a look at the final 30 seconds of that game and see what went right for Remy and what went wrong for Alexi. 802, 569. Miner chip is coming in. And then you see this really aggressive push. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if he's trying to catch Remy off guard and get that Magic Archer push to tower to get a couple shots in. It's not the worst play, because if you do catch someone off guard, you immediately win. But Rich, exactly like you're talking about, even though that wall breaker doesn't connect, it's really dang close. And that fireball damage, Alexi just keeps giving him so much fireball value.
Yeah, I mean, lots of fireball value, which he has to do, trying to catch the miner there, which if he caught the miner, he would have won this one. And look at that, the NATO's are already going. But the real problem at the beginning of that replay was after the aggressive miner or wall breakers and Magic Archer push, the NATO, where he was trying to pull the bats and turn the Magic Archer.
Yeah.
The bats didn't, that was 3 elixir that didn't do any of the things that Alexi wanted. And that 3 elixir could have pulled the miner off. It could have pulled wall breakers back. Could have done a bunch of things. Could have been used to defend in a number of other ways. And that's again how NATO can do you dirty. You use it wrong one time at the wrong at a certain moment, and it's GG well played.
Yeah, it's a really unforgiving card. As simple as missing a hog to King Tower or just one bat in a high-pressure moment like that. And that final fireball hit a bomb tower, a princess tower, 2 wall breakers, and 3 spear goblins. So, I mean, I know the game's already over at that moment and you're just trying to catch the miner, but that fireball value towards the end of the game just started piling up like crazy. Miner to the back, like you said, Rich. NATO already ticking away, but logs hit faster than NATO's, unfortunately. Really, really well played. And about as fun as it can get. I mean, if you're talking content, now Remy's got a great video.
Phenomenal video for Remy, showing him beating his own deck. And also keep in mind here that Alexi was playing NATO, didn't get the King Tower activation, and Remy just went with the very, very nice, that extra extended range in the Magic Archer, got the King Tower activation. That was a key factor here as well. So Remy Eli, currently your king of the hill, up against Andres playing Hog versus a bridge spam variant.
Yeah, and we got OK in the chat saying exactly what you were just talking about, Rich. I think that King Tower activation advantage saved his game. Absolutely. Miner chip always is effective. Hogs are always effective if he got that King Tower going. So really, really well done there by Remy, getting a high pressure, quick on his feet King Tower activation. I believe it was already after he'd taken a good amount of damage, more damage than he would have liked early on. So something that was a great game saver. And we're on to the next one. Here we are.
And Andres, who's the probably least experienced player out here today. He has very little experience in competitive, has made it to the top 1,000 on ranked and on ladder, but you know, not significantly higher. 375 his best finish on our current ranked mode. Out here just storming the castle against Remy.
I was just going to say, what weird placement for that Mighty Miner. I mean, I guess he's trying to not get the Mighty Miner hit by all the barbs, but if the Mighty Miner is not getting hit by the barbs, then the Princess Tower is getting hit by the barbs. I think it would have been better to play it up high, use the ability early on, and then maybe have found a way to get another card down, but Remy Eli decides not to. 874, 1597 to 2 untouched towers.
I see someone asking if this is Remy's first professional event. Obviously, he's known for ranked and ladder and global tournament play. Has had a few runs in CRL, but not past the group stage. Played in the Queso Cup last year during the Golden Ticket era, and has represented France as part in the World Royale League as well. So he's done some competitive play, but obviously he's known most as a phenomenal ranked / ladder player.
A very aggressive Firecracker plus Hog push results in great damage there for Remy, who really, really needs it. But Andres gets a nice counter push in both directions as that Bandit connects on the right-hand side. The Heal Spirit heals up the AQ, takes away the Ice Spirit, and this feels like a game over, Rich.
Yeah, that's one of the things about being a one-trick. And Remy certainly is better than many people at Clash Royale, you and I included. But
yes,
he plays minor wall breakers. He plays the Remy deck or Remy deck variations. And you're getting into the situation where obviously there are some other challenges here. The arrows are massive in this matchup, but certainly looked a little bit out of sorts here in a few different situations.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not the best matchup, but obviously not the best played either. But Remy happy to pick up a win here, go to the back of the line as Andres, who we were just talking about a minute ago, guy that I haven't seen much this year, gets his first win in Royale Masters King of the Hill period, I think, in 2023. If I'm not mistaken, let me check really quick. And yeah, I think this is his first showing, so congratulations to him.
And $100 to his pocket right there. So
yeah,
for someone who's only competed twice in a competitive event, played for something called multi-platform sports games, which I've never heard of, and was part of our Summer Clash Heist for Royale Masters. This is a nice addition. Yeah, I don't know what he made for the Summer Clash Heist, but he's definitely added a significant percentage to his overall Clash Royale winnings right here on camera.
That Summer Clash was so fun. I really enjoyed that, especially Heist. Like, shockingly, I remember you and I both going into it, we're like, man, I really don't know what those games could look like. And it ended up being an absolute blast. So yeah, Royale Masters doing tons of events all year long, including King of the Hill. Got another one next month. Also got more traditional King of the Hill or traditional Royale Masters coming your way just this weekend. So make sure you guys are joined in that Discord. And Rich and I can be casting your matches in one of our favorite formats, period, in competitive Clash Royale. Rich, we're back around, I believe. We're all the way back to our good friend Doom, who started off and got close, was able to get Igor close, but wasn't able to take game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story often people have against Igor, is he steals it away from you. We saw that happen a couple of times. We also saw that happen a little bit ago with that. I mean, that Remy matchup was still crazy. My mind's blown from the Remy Alexi matchup. I'll have to watch that again afterwards. And yeah, Doom, certainly an entertaining player, certainly an entertaining personality. And now Andres he stuck on the back end, played against the softer side of our lineups, and now he goes back around to the meat where he plays against world finalist in Doom, and if he beats him, world champion, all-time ladder great in Igor, and if he beats him, this year world finalist in Sosa. So this is going to be a really fun test for Andres as we get into this part of our rotation.
Yeah, the killer's row, as we like to talk about. Dominic had a quiet 2023 comparatively to his 2022, obviously, as a world finalist last year. This year, he ended up in the top 50. Still exceptional, but, you know, it was a bit of a surprise. I'm not sure if it was just maybe him adjusting to the Evos, the meta, or if maybe he had just other things going on in his life that were taking up more time. I've seen that he's been streaming more on Twitch lately, so it's good to see him here at King of the Hill once again. And he's had a lot of success. Let's see if he can kind of turn that around, at least for today, where he has got a big goose egg.
And looks like Doom might be going lava here, which he is clearly known for. And is Andres just trying to kind of play the troll game, like go at you with what you got? Very fascinating.
Yeah, I know. What a weird start here. And now with Mega Minion and E-Wiz and Fireball out of cycle, he's just going to NATO this to King Tower or eat the whole thing. And yeah, I was like, I don't know what deck has NATO with those other cards in it. But okay, so Goblin Giant comes out defensively. And honestly, Rich, not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, he could have eaten a little bit more there, but now he's going to have to contend with some very healthy Barbarians. And I bet you that Doom puts a little bit more pressure here, although he is a little bit low on elixir, might just let them do what they do and prepare to react, as this will be a nice little fight in the middle. That's a nice zap there, just to make sure that his barbs do a little bit more to clean that up and make it to essentially no counter push potential, maintaining about a 1 elixir lead.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game moving forward because the Sparkies obviously create a lot of pressure, a lot of trouble. The Tombstone is kind of annoying if you are Andres, but then you do have really good air counters. You have 4 of your first cards play there. The Mega Minion, the E-Wiz, the Fireball, and the Zap are all going to do really, really well. And you have your barbs and Sparky to help deal with his barbs. So we'll see how this goes through. Obviously, Doom is a great lava player, known to being one of the best players in the skies in competitive Clash.
And this Loon getting tanked for.
Wow.
And it's still going to connect after all of that. And Doom coming out with a little bit of BM after all that, too. That's what we talked about. A very entertaining personality. And he's sitting there going, dude, you had all of that and I still hit you? Cry, cry, cry.
Yeah, like nothing came out of it, right? No good damage, no counter push, no opportunity for a Sparky to go opposite lane, like literally nothing. And now he's going to just kind of keep doing it here on the other side. Fireball to no man's land? Was he trying to hit the Skeleton Dragons? Were they even on the board yet? I think he just hit a Mega Minion with that Fireball.
I think that he's just all up in his feels right now, more than anything else, because this is all the things. And that's a GG. That's a well played. And Andres enters Murderer's Row and immediately understands what we mean when we say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, we always say, man, there's levels to this game. And Dominic knows not only does he have the advantage, and if he takes the tower and he starts to BM you, he's playing all the games. And that is one of the reasons why we like players. Look, I don't like getting BM'd. I turn off my emotes for a reason. But when they happen during a match that I'm calling, I love it. 99% of the time, I love it.
Sure. You turn off your emotes. I am the opposite, because I leave them on and let myself feel the rage, let myself feel the anger. And you know, you'd think it would motivate me, but instead it usually does work and totally tilts me. So yeah, I don't know why. But here's the thing: is if I have the emotes turned off, I imagine how much they're BMing. You know what I mean? It's like it's even worse if I don't have them on. So that's the psychosis living in my head.
So recently, maybe within the last several months, they had an update, right? So now when you go watch your replays, you don't see the BM. They don't, it doesn't show them, whereas it used to. And I'm sure, like, for me, that was one of the reasons why when I lost games, I didn't like to watch the replays of me losing, because I also was like, I'm trying to learn from this. And now I'm also getting BM'd after the fact. It's already over and I'm getting like BM. Anyway, so I found out that they removed them in the replays, but now my crazy self goes to Royale API, checks the matchup, and then checks the emote log, because I'm that insane. I'm that crazy girlfriend, dude. That's me.
Well, I understand taking a look at records. I've done it quite a bit. Let's take a look at the records for today and see where everyone stands after we've gone through our first chunk of gameplay. And right now, despite running into a pretty difficult run there, Alexi has currently solidified his second place spot for the moment. Igor, aka Hazard Kazardi, there with 3 wins, 375. Sosa, Hugo, and Takuya all still looking for their first win here today, and we'll see if they can get that one in our second round of gameplay. Andrew, of those 3, do you think Sosa's the first one to get a dub?
I think so. I hope so, because again, you got World Finals just around the corner. You got to start stacking up wins wherever you can, whether it's against the bottom half of this bracket or the top half. You got to get some big wins. I want to see Sosa walk away with at least 3 wins today, at least.
Well, we'll see if he does so, and I am well about to wait a few minutes, though, to see if that's happening. We'll be right back after a short break. And welcome back. Hope you got yourself some popcorn and some soda, or, you know, maybe some water if you're on a health kick right now, because we have some more very watchable Clash Royale. Andrew's hydrating, not dehydrating, as we get into the second round of gameplay. Andrew, we've already had some wins, but also some good parity as they've kind of gone around with some very close, very exciting finishes.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, we had some people bust out, you know, signature decks against their creator, which you always love to see for one of the best games or matches we've seen in a very, very long time. You've got people that we are expecting to get wins. I mean, I was able to at least get this in before the break. I was saying I need Sosa to get at least 3 wins today. I'd be curious to see if you have a magic number for Sosa, just because World Finals around the corner. And then, of course, Igor, right? Our world champion, former world champion, doing what Igor does, which is win a lot, and then when he's not winning, put my phone down. I'll wait till I come back in, reset, so that you don't get tilted, right? I mean, that's kind of his MO, and has been for a very long time. King of the Hill has really come through and delivered, as it always does so far today.
It's really fun. The BO1 format is wild and crazy. And to answer your question about Sosa, 2 or 3 is kind of the mark that you need to hit to feel like you walked away with enough here. The hard part for Sosa is that he's starting off in kind of the difficult position, right? He has Doom right now. I don't know who he faces if he beats Doom. It might be Igor. I don't know where Igor is in the order at the moment, but Sosa has found himself without ever having an easy on paper matchup throughout these. So it's kind of a difficult spot for him to come out and get those wins, but he might start it right now here against Doom.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, and we just got in our ear it's going to be Hugo and then Igor and then order it, because it's like when you're towards the bottom, right, there's probably the guy that was killing it coming down, moving through the row that you run into, and then maybe you get one easy out, and then you're back around to the front of Murderer's Row like we just talked about. So here we go, Sosa, Dominic, and I mean, Rich, exactly what you're just saying. And Sosa's going to go to something we've seen a lot today already, a lot every single time we cast Clash Royale tournaments, minor wall breakers.
It's not going anywhere, Andrew. There might be some buffs and some nerfs, but if it's not Remy Eli, we had before that the Luminary deck, right? The Prince MK deck. And now the Bats one, we'll see what happens with Bats going forward. And of course, take a look at this. The Royal Recruits evolved in this Minor Wall Breakers construction. So Minor Wall Breakers, and it's funny to think back to the first time we saw them played by Tommy of Tribe Gaming in 2019, when Wall Breakers were still 3 elixir.
And not good.
Well, really, the change in 3 elixir from 3 to 2 changed that card dramatically, and they nearly won the first time we ever saw them. And Tommy told us afterwards that it was just he had gotten the one matchup he didn't want to get, that he didn't feel comfortable with, and then not long after that, Wall Breakers got moved to 2 elixir. And for the fall season, as Doom just ruins this with the Evo
runs
barbs
through Sosa there.
It was the fall season of 2019 CRL where they got turned into 2 elixirs, and then Minor Wall Breakers were absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I still remember calling that match. We were like, whoa, what are those? Just because no one ever played them. And that was one of the things we always loved about Tommy. I mean, he really was, you know, a visionary, if you will, when you watched him play. A lot of those old matches, when we talked about watching Tommy play, it was always a treat because he'd bring out something new, something innovative. He was really a brilliant player who, honestly, I wish his pro career lasted just a little bit longer.
Well, this game's not going to last very long, as Sosa has already thrown in the towel, and you get blown up by Evolved Barbs the way that he did early on. There's not much to do after that one. GG, well played. Doom adds another one to his roster, and Sosa now will only have one more opportunity on our last third of the show to get himself in the winner's column.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of an interesting decision. You know, the Barbs come out second card for Dominic, and then you kind of see continued aggression from Sosa. I mean, I guess what he's trying to do is there's a point where a flying machine is crossing the bridge, and he's trying to, like, kite that flying machine away, distract it from getting on tower. I don't know if in that moment you need to eat the damage or what, but this is exactly what we were talking about before with Evo'd RG and Evo'd Barbs and single elixir. Is the moment you overextend yourself and you don't have a great response, people can just go hyper aggressive Evo Barbs, Evo RG at the bridge, and you just have nothing for it. I mean, because I'm sitting here looking back at the replay, and it's just Spear Goblins is basically what comes down. Spear Goblins to clean up the flying machine, and he's got 2 elixir in the tank. So Spear Goblins plus log, that's all you have to deal with Evoed Barbs at the bridge. That's why you lose the towers. So like you said, Rich, Sosa only has 1 more opportunity, and that's why I was only putting it at 3 wins. I just need to see him do something, but BO1 format does make it really tough.
Yeah, it is so random, right? It's one thing we like about the esports scene with typically playing dual mode, where not only do you have more than 1 look, but you have more than 1 look with information, more information as you go from game to game to game. Whereas you don't have that here. BO1, it's kind of like ladder. You press play, and you go, well, I hope that the thing that they have doesn't stop the thing that I have. It's a little bit tighter than that because you know who you're playing against. You might be able to get an idea of what they could play, but BO1 in general is the most unpredictable of ways to play Clash Royale.
Yeah, you know, and I think to kind of add to that point, some of the things that we've seen today are really like big matchup conversations, right? Like even if you just pull up what we just saw, it's basically a 70-30 in favor of Dominic, but I just would love to see maybe a little bit tighter gameplay even in those bad matchups, right? I mean, there's a reason why the same players show up at the top of leaderboards every single month. You know they're not getting good matchups every single game on ladder. And same thing conversely in tournaments. They don't get good matchups every single time. They just play a little smarter. And Sosa just got a little ahead of himself, I think, in that game, even though it was a horrible matchup.
It was definitely not what he hoped for. Sosa, Hugo looking like he's running Hog here. Well, he has the NATO, so that's a little bit strange. Maybe he's running the Exi version?
Straight Exi. Yeah, I was going to say it could be Hog Exi NATO, or it could just be Exi Control. But
also be Drill.
Yeah, true. I don't know why. I just don't love Drill right now, and good call on the Drill, and maybe this will win me over.
Yeah, Drill just isn't great at the moment. It has its matchups, but Drill, you know, overall, Drill decks have taken a couple of hits over time, and the meta has kind of gotten very splashy, and so that also hurts Drill quite a bit. So you put those pieces together, not to mention the death of Golden Knight. Golden Knight not being strong anymore. You know, there was this period where you had Golden Knight, Magic Archer, NATO, Drill, and that was all over the place. And now that Golden Knight just isn't very good by comparison, that was an inadvertent nerf to Drill.
You're like, I think it's better if I just don't play anything and just eat the Goblin Drill, because if I play anything, I'm gonna get a Magic Archer lineup and a Golden Knight chain with a NATO. So I'm gonna sit back and take damage.
Yeah, we'll see if there's some life in this Drill deck here from Hugo as we go past the first minute 50 seconds. Double elixir about to flow, and so far, Hugo with a slight lead, but keep an eye on the fact that Doom has damage in both lanes.
Just a little bit of a setup for push right here, kind of like opening moves in chest, see what your opponent's going to do to respond, see if you can get some good damage in, and misses a big Ice Spirit, so NATO's going to have to come out, misses Bats as well. A couple big misplays there by Hugo, now has to overspend defensively.
Yeah, I wonder if Hugo was picking this thinking that he might be up against Lava Hound, right? Running the Exi, running the NATO, running the bomb tower. Could have been the thought he was going for here, not to mention second building in the Drill if you do need that support, and just not finding the matchup he was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that's really not a bad call, especially because Doom has been going to the skies a lot in his most recent wins. Yeah, that Exi really just... It's fascinating what one card can do to the meta and how quickly things can become less impactful just because of that one card. There we go. Good NATO this time around, but Miner still gets on top of tower, and... I feel like you could be right, Rich. It almost feels like he was going for that just because of it doesn't look like he feels very comfortable playing this deck.
And the Executioner does not get a shot off on those spears. Log to clear, 1872 to 1065. Wall breakers in with pressure. Miner goes low, and the NATO miss on the Miner. Absolutely devastating for the Frenchman.
I feel like Hugo has to be lagging. I feel like there was a whole second of time there where it was clear the Miner was already in the safe spot, and then the NATO came down. I don't know if that's just me, but it looked like a very delayed reaction there from Hugo.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I do know that this is starting to look pretty dire for Hugo overall. NATO's these wall breakers back, but he really wants to get that NATO involved with the Exi. I don't know if he has any way to win this without getting at least one Exi connection. And right now, he's being put in positions where that's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, what Doom is doing that's so brilliant is he's realized how annoying those bats are. You must spell these bats off the board. You're not going to land a perfect Ice Spirit because of the way that I'm sending my pushes. I think the big mistake might have been for Hugo, maybe he needed to use more fireballs defensively, wait for the bats and the wall breakers to get in the same spot like we saw 2 pushes ago there from Doom, which I don't even know if Doom gave that opportunity very often. But then, like you said, Rich, you have that, wow, what is happening on the right-hand side? What is happening on the right-hand side?
They snuck in!
Wow.
The Goblins! I think that they might have hit an extra one in that drill somehow. They absolutely snuck in. The fireball made a little bit of room, and the wall breakers weren't able to pick up, and those Goblins just said, hey, we opened up a window. I'm turning that into a door, and they took that tower. Just, again, the thievery today is absolutely wild.
I'm like jaw-dropped right now. I'm looking at this replay here on my other monitor, and that is just, like you said, that fireball created like 7 tiles worth of space between all the units around the Goblin drill. That was unbelievable. And I feel like Doom has to be going, what on earth just happened? I'm just sitting back. I'm waiting to win the game. My poison's ticking away. On to the next one. Another $100 in the bag. Wow. Wow, we got a replay going here. Please load it up.
Bring
Rich,
it.
Talk me through this.
Let me see this. So you see, trying to get the Exi on here, he's trying to get past this bomb tower, can't do it. The drill comes in, and he knows this Exi's not going to do it. So this fireball comes down. It's a last gasp effort. Look at that tick away. But the wall breakers, they don't distract the deepest goblin. That goblin, instead of turning to the wall breakers, it turns to the tower, and that's just a half-tile targeting problem where it could have gone to the wall breakers instead, and we are here with a very tight, very wild Doom win. Instead, the Goblin goes, well, I don't really like wall breakers. I like towers better, and takes the win there for Hugo.
Yeah, and I felt like Doom was doing so much right. You know, the chat here saying, you know, I think Doom got complacent. I don't really know if that's the case. I mean, maybe that happens sometimes. It's happened to me before where I'm just like, wow, this game is so in the bag right now. I can just rinse and repeat the same thing, because I was literally just praising how well Doom was putting those pushes together with the bats. They were so annoying. Hugo could never get on top of them. We kept talking about how that NATO needed to be used offensively instead of defensively. And finally on that push, that's exactly what we got. We got the NATO early on, right, to pull the knight away, just create a little bit of space. Didn't really get much damage out of it, but it made units have to come down. And then you get the fireball offensively. Really good stuff there from Hugo to never give up, even though it looked like the game was far from something he could salvage.
I don't know if we can run that replay back again if there's time to do it, but I'm very curious about the log situation, right? Because you saw how low that tower was that Doom was working on, but then you talk about the defensive side of things. He played the high bomb tower to try to make sure the Exi didn't get a lineup on tower even with the NATO play, and then he had that drill come out. A log maintains that victory for Dominic here. So I'm very curious about what had happened with the log.
So I'll tell you right now. So Goblins are coming across the bridge, and he does log. So he just logged early. The log already came in, got damage in, was ticking away. It looked like maybe the log came out too high because Goblins were coming across the bridge, but the log did get on tower. So, I mean, wow. I'm just really impressed by Hugo there, as now he goes from one great player to another, from Doom over to Igor.
This would be a nice pickup here to go Doom Igor back-to-back for Hugo. And he does have the NATO to reset that Inferno Dragon. Not too much sizzle on the right-hand side.
And drill 2 games in a row, and Igor going back to Graveyard. Second time here today.
Well, again, it's not one of those things you typically expect out of Igor, and showing some depth, showing some variety, certainly going to be helpful here. NATO against a lot of what Igor likes to run would be pretty effective.
And does get a nice King Tower activation there. The micro is on point for Igor, at least at the moment, as 2 Exis meet at the bridge.
Hugo's an interesting player who's always been sort of in the mix, but not all the way in the conversation, right? He finished CRL this year in that top 30, which is tremendous. And last year, he had some good performances. You know, he made top 8 in the golden in one of our golden editions last year. He made top 12 in another. So he's had some good performances, but it's never quite been the thing that pushes him over the edge into those top tiers. His crowning achievement is probably a team achievement where at No Tilt Worlds, I was part of that French team, took second place. I believe that was behind the very talented Chinese squad from 2021. I could be wrong about that one. But it's one of those questions where, you know, Hugo has to be asking himself, what do I have to do to get to that next level? And the answer has got to be getting by guys like Igor.
Exactly, Rich. That's really what it is. I mean, you know, I put it in so many words earlier, just talking about, you know, sports analogies and hitting home runs. And that's what you need, right? You talk about athletes at any level in any game, and when you look at the greatest guys in the world, they just kind of have like this killer's edge. And Hugo just needs to tap that in. You know, Igor had it back in the day. All the guys, Ruben has it, Mo has it. Like, all the best players in the world have it. And it feels like Hugo sometimes just doesn't have that one thing. You can see right there, look at how hyper-aggressive Igor got at the end. He was able to chalk up exactly what was going to happen at the bridge, get the push in, and take over the game in just 2 graveyard freeze pushes. That's it. Really well done.
And Igor takes control of the hill one more time and adds, I believe, his 4th win on the day, maintaining his overall lead with the wins today, and that's $400 in his pocket based on his efforts, and not anything less than you expect from one of the best of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and also that was just a really great push by Igor, getting that Evo Knight up front, getting the Executioner just far enough behind so it made it really hard to place the rocket. I don't know if it's better to rocket the Knight plus and then deal with the Executioner, or deal with the Executioner with the rocket, and that's what happened. The rocket comes down on the Xe plus, I think, Goblins. Evo Knight completely untouched, walks to tower, then NATO's all these things away. The Knight gets on tower, so really, really well orchestrated there by Igor. Yeah, I guess you could probably chalk it up to a bit of a missed rocket, I guess.
Yeah, you know, that'll definitely do it. 6 elixir that doesn't do what you want will certainly create some problems for you. We've seen that happen in the past quite famously in Clash Royale. And now we have Igor in a pretty comfy position as he goes into the softer side of our order, right? So he has Takuya coming up next, and then I don't know who exactly he has after that one, but he gets into a spot where he could really rack up some money. It just depends on, do we get Igor or do we get Igor without the R? And we start to see the mind of Igor getting its own way.
Maybe one of my favorites from you, Rich, and we've worked together for a long time. Yeah, if you want to be great, you got to have a little bit of that ego. And Igor's got both, so we'll see here what he's got. Already rocking minions, so usually that means we're going to see Goblin Giant, and we'll see which version of it is. He was favoring the Dark Prince plus Mini P.E.K.K.A version with the Knight. Looks like he might be going to it once again, as Takuya going right back to their comfort. Loving the Magic Archer Wall Breakers situation we've seen many times.
And Mother Witch will certainly be annoying in this one. And if this is Sparky, Takuya's in a world of hurt. If it's the Goblin Giant beatdown deck, still in trouble. But that Sparky deck would be an absolutely devastating moment. And it should just be the beatdown version.
Yeah, and we did see how close this deck got against that Sparky version, but one mistake, 2 mistakes, game over, and there it is. I wonder if Igor just looked at what happened before and goes, I could probably play that a little bit better. And that guy still won, so Takuya now in a situation where this deck is... I mean, if Igor doesn't have Fireball, it's the only way you get around this, but I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. NATO's everything back. Bomb Tower will clean up that push and leave them pretty even on Elixir. So far, so good, with a nice damage lead for Takuya as well.
Yeah, 1661, 2809, great damage in early. Igor should switch lanes and start going in the favorable lane, but we'll see if that's what he wants to do. I don't know how to play this deck on the top of your screen very well because I despise Goblin Giant and Sparky, but at least from playing it in the past, I know changing lanes at any moment is usually the best way to go.
We'll be curious to see if we see him go in 2 lanes at once. Obviously, we've seen one big lesson, controlling the Magic Archer is critical for him. Fireball wasn't available, I guess, earlier, and he gave up an insane amount of damage. We'll get some chip into that lane here, and tries to predict the miner, and not going to get it, but will get it off still. That's quite a lot of damage, under 1,300 HP on the right-hand side.
That's a really nice log. It just pushes the mini P.E.K.K.A back far enough so the Spear Goblins get on top of tower. Now we're seeing Igor go, all right, I tried to go in one lane, didn't work. Now let me try the dual lane pressure thing and see how that goes. Got some Evo Knight in front of this Sparky. And nice walk there on the Evo Knight of Takuya.
And that's actually a great play by Takuya with the NATO, because that play pulled the Knight away from his Evo so it could take the damage, right? I don't know if that's going to matter as this push is going crazy. Sparky doesn't hit, doesn't matter, because the left-hand side, you talked about it, absolutely brutalizes Takuya, and he's played this matchup twice with an absolute bagel so far against Sparky.
It is just so tough to control the dual lane pressure of that deck, especially when your swarm units are killed by a rage, right? So that means there's only one thing that you can really drop down. It's either your building, or sorry, not one thing, only a few things. It's your building, your miner, or your knight. And you see at the very end there, Spear Goblins go near the Magic Archer in the center, which gives a lot of fireball value. And then Spear Goblins have to go high so they don't get raged off the board, and then Knight comes down. Well, a raged up mini P.E.K.K.A is going to eat through that Knight like butter, and an easy tower take on the left-hand side. And I think a lot of it was because just that pressure created from the Sparky on the right-hand side, just enough to make you make mistakes on the left.
And just as I was praising the move to separate the Evo Knights so that his Evo Knight could absorb another Sparky shot while it was moving, just as I was praising that, well, the pressure comes opposite side, and that's GG, well played. And just a tough out for him. And now Igor adds another win to his overall list, his second streak that he's on, and now goes back against the guy who beat him in Alexi for a chance at revenge.
Yeah, someone in the chat here asking, why do you despise Sparky? Well, because of the 7 years I've been playing this game, it is one of the cards that still, no matter how many times I play against it, no matter how many times I've defended it, you make one mistake and it's over. It's game over. You literally lose the game because you play a unit one tile too high and it splashes on your tower, that your biggest DPS unit goes. Or just exactly what we saw and what Igor did, that dual lane pressure, especially now with the improved rage, it becomes so difficult to deal with if you play like swarmy baity cards, which is another thing I love to do.
Yes.
So that is why I despise Sparky.
Yeah, everyone, don't you have a deck or a card that you hate? If you don't have a deck or a card that you despise, then you've never played Clash Royale, in my opinion, or you haven't played enough, because that seems like that's like one of those things that a Clash Royale player has in them, a thing that makes them just furious at its mere existence.
Bowler and Sparky are my two, and Expo. Those are my top three. Bowler, Sparky, and Expo are my top three. Yeah, Rex, I know it's a good card. I just don't like the card. Yeah. Rich, what are your top three?
Oh, man, Golem. I think it might be it. I used to be an Expo player. I actually really hate playing against Expo now, because even when I have a good matchup, it's just not a fun game to play. I don't like playing against it. Yeah,
even when you win, you still feel gross when you beat Expo.
Yeah. So I think Golem, Expo are definitely the two of the big ones up there. And I'm not sure what the third one would be. I Beatdown in general triggers me, just because it's a style of gameplay that I'm not good at, and that my elixir management is garbage, and so I get brutalized by it often. So I think those are the ones for me. Anything beatdowny is rough.
Boise says, I'm a proud member of the Anti-Sparky Club. Well, welcome.
I don't mind Electro Giant, though, for some reason. Maybe it's because I play so much Magic Archer that I don't care.
All right, Igor going with Ice Spirit NATO, which means probably going to see an Executioner with Barbaro. We saw that earlier paired with his Graveyard deck that I think he started the day off with, so we'll see if that's where he wants to go. Alexi already has some pretty good options to respond with E-Spirit and those Goblins, if that's the case.
Yeah, that's interesting, though. I don't think we've seen Alexi play any Electro Spirit yet today. He's been mostly focusing on, NATO splash combos, besides the time he played Goblin Giant Sparky, so very curious to see what he's thinking here. Maybe going Royal Giant? Most likely going Royal Giant?
Yeah, that makes sense. And a bit of a stop and stare here, so feeling like we could be correct on both accounts, as RG and Graveyard are usually not played a ton in single elixir, although we had the whole conversation about Evo to RG, so maybe Alexi doesn't like their starting hand.
Yeah.
Not sure.
I think that's got to be what it is, because you want to get those regular, that first RG out so you can play an Evo RG, but I think he's looking at Igor and saying, hey, if I play a classic Royal Giant right now, it's going to be giving him a 6 elixir advantage, which is a real problem. So we're gonna be getting started here probably in about 5 seconds or so. But I think that Alexi just is reading the matchup and going, I can't do what I want to do right now.
Yeah, I'm curious if now we see the RG come down in the back, and there it is. We've done this before.
Once or twice. And that knight does get into tanking range.
Oof, wow. That was a clean defense. And Igor has 7 elixir in the tank to deal with already about 9 on the board, plus the monk up front. This should be a fun one for us to watch, maybe not for Igor to defend.
And the monk ability timed really a rough timing from Alexi. Didn't get the bar barrel reflection and didn't reflect the executioner, so it did absolutely nothing defensively for him, and now Igor is going to create some real problems. Now, I'm kind of surprised here that Alexi didn't try to play that Fisherman for a King Tower activation against Graveyard.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. That's a great thing to call out, because we all know that that's GG well played. The moment that you are at this level playing against a King Tower activated situation with Graveyard, it's 99-1 matchup already. And maybe just wasn't in Alexi's arsenal at the moment, but stacking up a ton of damage is the player that was just mentioned, Alexi.
How did that Royal Giant shoot from there? What?
It was like it started the animation while it was getting pulled back, and now Alexi just goes, cool, naked fireball, GG, well played.
Yeah, he had the extra elixir for it, so why not? That Royal Giant had curry range. I don't even understand how that connected.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And now Igor just going, all right, I'm going to try something here. It's not going to work, but this game's pretty much over. I see once this push dies, Igor doing the classic phone down.
Yeah, it's possible. And Fireball in, but I think he's seeing this horse of the barn syndrome. Can he beat out this Fireball play? He needs to get a Graveyard in. He needs to get it in
Evo
right
Knight
now.
is real healthy.
Graveyard in. Does he have his
High
NATO?
Spirit.
Can he get a full connection here with the Executioner? Cannot, and that's going to be GG. Well played. Alexi, 2 times, has taken down Igor. Put a feather in your cap, and then put one on the other side there, young man.
I know. Igor's like that villain at the end of a Scooby-Doo. He's like, I would have just ran this whole tournament if it wasn't for you and those dang kids. Alexi just rocking this tournament against one of the best in the world when it comes to Igor. I mean, this is just a really, really well-played game. That game really got out of Igor's hands in that one moment. I mean, not only did that crazy curry shot come in from the RG, even without that, those 5-6 shots that came in, just mismanaged defense there from Igor. I don't play enough of either of these decks really to know, would it have been better for him to maybe try to go opposite lane, because either way you end up giving a good counter push. It just seemed like the counter push that took that tower essentially and brought it down to 500 HP was the result of maybe an aggressive or over-aggressive Graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, the Monk created real fits and starts for Igor as well, right? While the Monk ability was misplayed in the first exchange, in the second exchange, it completely shut down his ability to stop that push. And again, it does create the question of, do you go opposite lane just so he can't put everything right there? Do you make him do something different? The second Monk exchange was nicely done by Alexi and really a game changer.
Let's take a look here at a replay we have here of that, pretty much the game-deciding moment here. We got the RG in. Look at the push behind. Goblins behind, Bar Barrel behind. RG still gets the shot when the NATO comes down. Look at the Elixir also. Ticking to 4, ticking to 8 with a Knight on the board for Igor with no HP, and that's why exactly what you said, Rich. Now he can just go for that naked fireball because he's doing a great job of knowing his Elixir, knowing his opponent's Elixir, and going, all right, let's just play back to even or going down 1 for straight tower damage. I just need 3 fireballs to win. So really, really well played there by Alexi.
RG not just going from downtown. It was a fadeaway jumper, Andrew. That was a fadeaway distance 3. So hey, nicely done, Royal Giant. And now Alexi comes out against Remy Eli for his next one. And this is one where he played the Remy deck against Remy. Remy went with the Fireball Bats variation and the very close win by Remy Eli. So now we'll see again, can Alexi, who just prevented revenge by Igor, can he go get it against Remy and take a big step up our ladder?
And the big question there is, can Remy win with something other than the Remy deck? And if not, does he just keep running it back and you know, stealing games in the final moments? I mean, that's, again, one of those things where your opponent has to be thinking about it in the back of their mind. I think if you are playing against Remy, you've got to do what we talk about with a lot of people at the highest level. Give yourself a deck that if you go up against his comfort, you are at least in a 50-50 matchup, right? That's the best you can ask for, and then play something that you're good enough with, period. But don't find yourself in a situation where you're either trying to snipe too hard and then you don't have any way to defend other decks, or you're like, he's not going to run his comfort deck, and then he does and you get destroyed.
I mean, look, I think that one of the good picks here would be Goblin Giant Sparky, but the only question here is Remy comfortable enough with a Goblin Giant Sparky counter to win that matchup? So that's the kind of the two-part question here, but it seems like the obvious pick for Alexi, and then so what does Remy do here?
Yeah, I mean, I would almost love to see him play some version of just like minor poison control. I mean, I know that can get a little tough to defend as well, but then he's not relying on, you know, things like Magic Archer lineups. You don't have to, you know, Magic Archers, we've already seen the Magic Archer NATO against Goblin Giant Sparky just doesn't really work out that well. So I don't know. I think I would love to see something that is maybe a little bit more control based from Remy that still has a lot of his favorite cards in it. So we'll see.
Let's check it out. Alexi trying to make it 3 in a row here, and Remy goes Minor, and Alexi going Royal Ghost to open.
Yeah, could still be a handful of things, but usually these days we've seen Royal Ghost in versions of Bridge Spam, and looks like we're going to get a version of Royal Giant with Royal Ghost.
Yeah, he actually ran this in a duel against Alexi. I think this was yesterday, maybe, or yeah, yesterday. So we'll see how that one fares. It was a win for Alexi in what I believe is the exact same matchup. So we'll see if he can do it twice.
Nice King Tower activation there from Remy, and you know, a big part of, I think, success in this game is going to be, if it should be Remy having the Spear Goblins. Exactly, there they are. What can Alexi do to get on top of those Spear Goblins? That's going to be the code or equation he's trying to solve for the next handful of minutes here, because those spears are going to be able to put in a lot of work and have basically no way to get taken off the board.
And Fisherman does not get the King Tower activation against that Miner. Barb Barrel will clean up those wall breakers. And this will be interesting.
Not high enough to get that Phoenix Egg protected. Would have been really nice there for Alexi, but a bit of a reach in terms of interactions.
And not quite the King Tower activation by Alexi. You know what he was going for there.
Yeah, maybe the second hardest King Tower activation in the game. I'm not sure if the harder one is the Mortar with the, you know, Skellies in front of King Tower, but I do find that Magic Archer one is really difficult, probably just because it's so new.
Here's how I can tell you the Magic Archer one is harder, Andrew, is I can do the Mortar one. And I do it regularly. So the Magic Archer one is definitely much harder.
All right, fair. As Remy gets great damage in both lanes here. Fireball comes in, and Remy just completely in control at the moment. And the lineup.
Yeah, this is interesting. And again, this is a matchup that Alexi won this one very handily last time they played it. So very interesting to see Remy getting the better hand here.
And Bomb Tower should come out right in front of this RG.
And so now we'll see. What does Remy do, or what does Remy do when this next Evo RG push comes through?
I mean, those spears, man, those spears really can do a lot, which is why you'll probably see exactly. I was going to say a Royal Ghost in front of an RG. That way you can try to catch the spears, but you can still get the late Bomb Tower and the spears in the center of the board.
Fireball not getting that Evo Knight, which would have been very nice for Alexi. Remy holding on brilliantly.
Yeah, and that's a lot of Elixir on the board, even though it's just a Knight. That's an Evo Knight on the board, so you're going to see Alexi have to really overspend here. So Remy should be able to get some cheap, free damage on the left-hand side, even if it's just a small amount.
And because the Knight, when it's stationary, doesn't have that same protection, you saw Alexi there not able to pull it for a King Tower activation, which would have been very, very helpful. My guess is that the last time they played this, Alexi was able to get a King Tower activation much earlier in the matchup, which is obviously very impactful in a minor wall breakers game.
And the log hits the E-Spirit. That's game.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
I think that Remy is pretty good at that deck. That's just what I'm going to say. It's a hill I'm willing to die on, Andrew. Remy's pretty good at that deck.
I think that's a good one to go on, my friend. Great stuff there. I mean, Alexi was doing it from the beginning of the game. He was getting really nicely timed bar barrels, or if the wall breakers were tanked for, it was bar barrels plus E-Spirits. Every single time it was coming through exactly the way that you want it to do. And look, pre-logging an E-Spirit is not easy to do. I've tried it so many times. You never know if they're going to go in the center, off to either side of that lane, coming down the center. And it's just one of those things. Remy Eli gets the perfect lineup with where the wall breakers are at. Barbarel's not going to do anything. And like you said, pretty good with that deck.
Yeah. And a very nice one. Hopefully we have the replay coming in for that finish, because it was brilliant play there by Remy, which you, of course, expect in this one. And I'm going to guess, I wasn't able to go see the pieces from when they played yesterday as part of this qualifier, but I do believe it must have been an early King Tower activation that made it a win for Alexi last time. And no time for the replay, so let's go ahead jump into our next matchup. Andres trying to come out here and spoil Remy's momentum once again.
Yeah, looking at the matches, Rich, on Royale API, that's a 60-40 in favor of Alexi. So Remy, again, just showing how good he really is with that deck, and also showing that he's like, all right, I had fun trying something else with Hog Rider. Let me go back to what I'm great with, even if I didn't win my first outing with it.
And switching up to a Fireball variation here against Andres and the Inferno Tower. This is a great adjustment for Remy in this Lava Hound matchup.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you want to see. Both those cards coming in. Fireball's going to do so much better against all the swarm troops behind. You can push away the balloon. You can push away the Inferno. But that is a little bit more expensive. And now what does he have for this balloon? Well, probably a late NATO.
Yep, there you go. King Tower activation. And now it'll be a lot about managing the cycle with the Inferno Tower, Spears, NATO. He does have the Fireball for knockback as well.
Yeah, and honestly, that King Tower activation is really big in this matchup. The amount that it can help with all those troops that Andres wants to put behind his lava, or at least getting that lava down so you can focus on those other troops. You see Andres switching lanes now.
I like the early adjustment and placement by Remy, right? Recognizing he's not against NATO, goes to the back of the King Tower, just in case there's a pickup play. Instead, Andres waits, and the wall breakers get sucked out. Nice little arrows play to clean things up.
And yeah, Fireball feels like the best option to clean all those things up, and the Inferno will still stand enough to take care of the Skeleton Dragon. Pretty clean defense, 22-41, 17-92.
I could watch Remy do this all day. I mean, it's so fun to watch him play minor wall breakers.
It's just clean. It's smart. He makes the best decisions. He does miss a lineup there, maybe a little bit of curse of the caster, but truly it is so fun because this deck is also just one of the most fun decks to watch anyone play that is very good with it because of because you also love Magic Archer lineup. Those are always fun, but also tracking cycle and tracking the best response to your swarm cards is always very impressive at this level.
Lightning arrows in this Lava Hound deck. That's an interesting wrinkle. You see Remy now, he's trying to cycle back to an Inferno Tower if he can do it in time, because he really wants to stop this. Maybe I'm going to have to NATO this back instead, and he does NATO it all back. He's still going to take a balloon shot, I think, here. Oof. Just barely saves it, and that's the King Tower activation you were talking about. Huge save against what should have been a Loon connection.
Yeah, I mean, what a really great draw there with getting the Lightning out for the Inferno. This is going to be a good lineup here for Remy. And you got to get something else down because that Evo Barb's going to stay alive, going to pull everything back. And this is one of the worst spots to be in when you're playing against this deck. Wow, 2 more shots. No, just the one. 397 now, 1429. Remy feels like he's got this one all but sewn up.
Yeah, I mean, that also forced out a little extra elixir to control the Magic Archer at the bridge. So Now it's Andres trying to go hard into the right-hand lane, fireball to finish, and Remy Eli puts 2 up back-to-back.
It's just one of those things where you're like, I have to deal with the miner, but I can't overspend every time to block the Magic Archer, but I have to block the Magic Archer. I mean, literally the same thing, 2 or 3 sends in a row. It was just send in the miner, bait out the response, Magic Archer at the bridge. If you give me a lineup, great. If you give me a lineup plus a NATO, even better. And he just does it again and again and again. And, you know, when you play against the best players with Magic Archer, NATO, and miner, it feels like no matter how you defend, you're always available for a lineup, and that's exactly what we just saw.
Yeah, the lineups were real nasty here, and that was just Remy outclassing Andres in this matchup. And look, he had some good pieces, right? The going arrows lightning is interesting, and certainly the lightning valuable potentially against the Inferno Tower. But you have to imagine that arrows fireball, just so you have a better control of the Magic Archer, might have been a better choice.
Yeah, and especially when you're going up against Remy, I feel like, at least at this moment, and again, hindsight is 2020, but we saw what happened, right? He played the one game, lost by, you know, it is a nail biter, right? And then he goes and he tries Hog, right? Or no, excuse me, he wins that game in a nail biter, and then he goes and tries Hog out, and he loses. And so what does he do? He's like, well, look, I'm here. This isn't CRL. I just want to make some money. Give yourself a better opportunity. That's exactly what we were talking about before the matchup. Don't give yourself a situation where it's not 50-50. Just give yourself the fireball instead of arrows. Maybe it makes your deck a little clunkier, but he also made his deck a little clunkier to deal with your lava.
Here we go. Miner to the outside. Sosa picks up, and this is... I don't know if this is Sosa's last chance. This is either his last or second to last chance because of the way the cycles have gone. Because we do have one more run-through at the end of our day. This is our last match, I believe, of chunk 2 of our broadcast. So we'll see if Sosa can get in the winner's column here against Remy, who is just going back to the well one more time.
Yeah, and he's like he's just like forcing the meta upon this tournament. So it's like, all right, if I'm gonna keep winning, I'm gonna keep playing this deck, and now you need to strategize against this deck. And if you don't, I'm going to beat you because I beat everyone with this deck.
And Remy hedging his bet against an Archer Queen activation. Sosa not taking the bait and going for the ability.
So once again, this is going to be a good situation for Remy to just kind of stack those Magic Archers. Usually this deck being run by Sosa does not have a big spell, and if it does, you know, that'll be a situation where, all right, those are going to have to always go to the Magic Archers, and then the Bomb Towers can start to really control the board. So Remy in a decent spot here, probably in a matchup he's played many times before.
The Bandit and the Ghost are going to be interesting pieces here, right? Because if Remy is trying to play Magic Archers to in the middle and go for some of those stacks, and that, yeah, interesting wall breaker connection there, right? Does he start trying to throw Ghosts there in the middle and get them to walk all the way? Great King Tower activation by Remy.
Yep.
Maybe that King Tower activation is easier than we think, and we just need to practice it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying before is like maybe it's just because it's so new, because it does look like it's a drop towards the center and a step away, right? It looks like the units are always getting hit. The first shot is to soak damage, and the second shot is to activate King.
Nice little NATO to the Bomb Tower, and great log prediction to clean up that Archer Queen ability. Very nice from Remy, who is holding on to a very slight lead, 23-15 to, well, now leading on both sides, 22-10 to the right, 22-55 to the left.
Yeah, perfect placement on those wall breakers as well. Gets the Royal Ghost away from the tower, gets a double connection on the right-hand side. Now you have what you always want in this deck, which is dual lane pressure, which means those Magic Archers become even harder to predict where they're going to come out because you can win on either side. And another double wall breaker connection here as a Evo Knight does get to the tower.
Yeah, the Knight does pick up. Now keep an eye out. This is bridge spam, and this bridge is being spammed right now. Bandit in deep. Archer Queen going to get on the Magic Archer, but won't get it off the board. But a Magic Archer lineup on the right-hand side, double wall breakers, goes to stop. And this is very interesting. Remy's doing a good job holding up against the pressure, and a great high battle ram to avoid the Magic Archer lineup. But it turns and gets on tower anyway.
That's crazy. The Battle Ram going away gets the Magic Archer to retarget on the Knight, and Sosa's calling that good luck because I guess it's good luck, but that's also the way interactions work. The Magic Archer has to have something to target when that battle ram goes off the board before the barbs populate the map. And what do they have to target? The Knight, which was a perfect lineup there. So bit of good luck, bit of good fortune, but I gotta tell you, it's Remy Eli getting a Magic Archer lineup. It's hard to call it good luck.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how many games he has played with this deck. My guess is thousands. It's just my rough estimate, thousands. And so you're talking about knowing every single interaction, knowing that change is going to happen. I mean, look, the other thing too is that that was a nice block up top, and maybe it was Sosa not keeping in mind that once that went down, the retarget would happen and get on the Knight either way. So very tough situation for Sosa, who should have one more opportunity to get things back. But right now, it's Remy Eli on a 3-game win streak.
Is there not a deck that just has a good matchup with Fireball? Is there not? Can we just see Goblin Giant Sparky with Fireball? Maybe, I don't know. He's just gonna keep doing it to you guys. You gotta change something. Give yourself Fireball. Someone's
in a Goblin Giant Sparky against him, and he's gonna run like something with E-Drag or something weird and just shut it down. So gonna be absolutely a rough one for him. Let's take a look at the leaderboard right now and see where these players are after 16 games. And Igor still at the top with 5 wins and 575 earned. But Remy Eli, on the back of this 3-game win streak, has roared into second place.
Yeah, and you know, I don't mean to pick on Sosa. This is something that I've always done in my career as a caster here, is like expecting greatness out of people that are expected to be great. And Sosa's going to be at World Finals this year. I need to see some cleaner play from him. I know it feels a little harsh, not trying to pick on you, man, but it's only because of the situation that you're in. You got to have maybe just a little bit more going on in that moment. I get it. It's a tough lineup, but I want to see a win. I got to see win. We got 8 more matches. We could see at least one Sosa win, and I'm rooting for it.
Well, we'll be back with that in just 3 minutes. Grab your popcorn one more time, refill your water to the top, and we'll see you in a couple minutes to end our King of the Hill with 8 more phenomenal matches.
Breathe it.
Welcome back, everybody, to the last chunk of the Royale Masters King of the Hill September edition. If you don't already know, I'm Rich Slayton, that's Andrew Guy, and we talk about Clash Royale sometimes. And today we're talking about a guy who is just playing minor wall breakers because he's kind of good at it and stomping everybody, Andrew.
Yeah, it's crazy because while Igor is actually at the top of our leaderboard with 5 wins, it's been the Remy show for the last who knows how long now. Not only just because his deck has been showing up everywhere even when he's not playing, but his incredible come from behind victory, last second win, and now just the dominant run that he's been going on running the Remy deck. If you don't know what that is, welcome to Clash Royale. This is the NATO Magic Archer minor wall breakers deck that can be changed out with a bomb tower or a fireball or an inferno or a poison, whatever you want there. Excuse me, that's a different one because of the big spell. But the point is that Remy doesn't lose with it, and no one seems to be just coming out with a straight counter to it, because I think it's the thing we've always talked about. Since it's a best of one, since it's not dual mode, is he going to do it again? There's no way he does it again. It's landed on red 30 times in a row. It's got to land on black this time, right? No, nope. He's just going to keep running it. He's going to keep running through you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see what happens here against Doom, who does tend to go heavier. This will be interesting to see. Does Remy play a version of his deck that maybe go Xe instead of Magic Archer? Or does he just go, hey, let me show you how it's done with my deck, or a very similar variation one more time? And as you said, yeah, do you go for a snipe, and does he ever counter snipe? I don't know if he has that in him, so we'll find out right here.
Here we go. If anyone can do it, it's definitely Doom. He won the whole thing back in April, and he's been in our top finishes numerous times. He showed up in the King of the Hill, I think, tournament maybe 3 or 4 times now. And here we go, Rich. And a lot of the same things from both these guys. Looking like Doom's going to go to the skies. Remy running the same deck back. The question is Doom running the Fireball Arrows version? Is he running the Arrows version? Which version does he have?
Or is he potentially, I mean, I guess the skeleton, the Skelly Drags. Because you have lots of Fireball bait here as well. You have 3 Fireball bait cards. Could it be Pigs here as well? I mean, it does have the makings of both, and that Barb Barrel to clean up the Magic Archer, Miner to the back for some early damage, but it is Doom who has the lead so far.
And there's the Tombstone coming out to catch those spears, and actually a really nice Tombstone there. Probably not a lot of good options for Doom, and that would have been an incredible amount of damage. It is a -1 trade, but hey, saving that tower.
And this is Dominic's 3rd time in the top 8 at these Royale Masters King of the Hill editions, with a 2nd overall, with his total wins at 12 behind, guess who, Mohamed Light at 19 wins overall in our King of the Hill gameplay.
Of course. And you see there with Doom going with a perfectly placed flying machine. Not only is it going to get the Magic Archer off the board without giving piercing damage, but it's also in a great spot to turn and get directly on top of that Inferno. And there we go. Look at that. Miner to the back to bait out the NATO, I think, Rich. Now Fireball comes down, and he's got great pressure in both lanes. The Barb Barrel tank, dude, that? Wow. Oh my goodness. That was beautiful. There are so many layers to that orchestrated push. I love it.
That
Pull
was
that for a replay.
That was tremendous, and again, Doom very capable of that. Has long been a great lava player. Expanded his deck pool to be successful in CRL.
Yep.
But again, one of those guys who still you give him his choice, and he's throwing a big hound in the air and showing off a little bit here in this one so far. But don't count Remy out yet. That Inferno Tower, that Fireball, all of these are critical parts of this matchup.
And nice arrows there to clean everything up. So it does go the 1 spell version. Miner to get on top of the Magic Archer, as well as the Barb Barrel is going to kind of be the way for Doom to go. Another Magic Archer cycled now that Remy knows that his Magic Archer cannot be spelled off the board. So as more things are being discovered between these two players, we're seeing a lot of changes in their gameplay. This is a fun one so far.
Oh, big time. And just like that, suddenly, Remy Eli back in control.
I mean, just moments ago, that tower had twice as much HP.
And that Miner doesn't get on the Magic Archer and gets NATO'd in for a King Tower activation, but somehow it still doesn't feel that devastating for Doom, as now the Miner is forced out to control that flying machine one more time.
Yeah, that flying machine has been a bit of a nuisance, but Remy been doing a pretty good job cleaning it up. And the Magic Archers, really, that's been the secret here, right? Look at that. The pickup on the Magic Archer there with the Evo Knight can only go so many places. Nice NATO Fireball to pull everything together to make sure that Flying Machine doesn't cause too much trouble.
This is a big defensive moment for Doom, who gets most of the spears off, but not all of them. Evo Barbs in the back. Wall breakers will not get there. And now Doom does get the high skeleton dragons to prevent the real Magic Archer problem, and this is a lot to control, but it's fireball value.
Wow. Yeah, I was just going to say, this is a bit of a scary push, Rich, but just as I was thinking that, you're right. Fireball comes down perfectly. No Magic Archer lineup here. If I'm Remy, I think you'd probably kind of pump the brakes on it, and you're not going to be able to now with the bar barrel up high. But you could still see the amount of units Doom's dropping at the bridge, just going, I am not going to lose this game by giving you another lineup.
The lineup and or fireball damage on that Princess Tower. Bar barrel out. Tombstone does pick up the wall breakers. 329 to 536. 2 Magic Archers on the board. And that Flying Machine gets decimated.
In the lineup.
And once again, Remy Eli gets it done. GG, well played. And now he is tied for our lead in our September King of the Hill.
I said right before the end of the break, I was like, if he just does this for the rest of the tournament, I am so okay with it.
Yep.
And again, he runs up against Doom, who we actually have a clipped out Doom's, send earlier on, which I think is probably still the better clip to have at least. But I mean, when you talk about what Remy's done in the last 25-30 minutes on this broadcast, and you like playing these decks, just go watch it back. Just go rewatch this whole thing for a great masterclass on what to do in these matchups.
This is one of my favorite decks. I play it a ton, specifically the true Remy Eli deck. I play these variations though quite a lot, and I could watch this 1,000 times and still, I don't think I could ever play it even for a moment the way that he puts this together.
Let's take a look here at the moment, at least where it looked like Doom was going to take this game, but then Remy goes, look, you can do something special, and this really is. So the Flying Machine comes in to take out the Magic Archer. It's lined up perfectly, and so, like I said, it has to barely walk forward to get on top of the Inferno. Magic Archer's slash does not, or piercing damage does not get through. Miner to the back to bait out the native, right? Because he knows that's going to come in, but since he knows that Elixir's going to be spent, he goes aggressive at the bridge. Well, what does that mean? Fireball has to come out. So what unit do you always want a Fireball for? Well, Magic Archer if they have it, or Flying Machine. And you can see that Bar Barrel perfectly timed to get in front, tanked for by that Lava Pup, then the Bar Barrel, then the Flying Machine gets on tower. But again, to go back to how great this is by Remy, he goes, all right, no problem. You're going to get great damage in. Well played. You only have arrows. I have Magic Archer. Watch this. And then the next few minutes is history. Love to see it.
Yeah, that was tremendous. And on a really insane run right now is Remy. 4 wins in a row, and he's got his next matchup against Hugo. Remy's making a real case for being our true king here in September.
Yeah, and Oizy asking the same question we've been asking is, why are they not running a deck with Fireball against him, period? And so Hugo maybe going back to what he saw earlier, going, all right, well, someone got really close with minor wall breakers. Maybe I can get a little closer.
That is interesting. We saw Alexi run Fireball against him. Other than that, that's the only time we've seen someone run Fireball against him today.
Yeah, and it didn't work, right?
And it didn't work, true. So forget what you forget what you heard.
So Remy changing things up a little bit here. Skelly's, I believe, is a change from what we've seen the last handful of games.
And can Hugo do what others have wanted to do? And Remy going to a switch here. Now keep in mind,
wow,
the Firecracker is not Evo'd. The Knight is not
neither of those
Evo'd.
Cards. So that's a mistake.
Or is there another card? Is there another card that does have the Evo?
Oh
it's
my
Evo Mortar.
gosh, it is! Woo! I was like, is it really going to be an Evo Mortar right here, right now? Remy's like, all right, these guys have been being pretty nice to me. Let me give them a gift back, or at least Andrew a gift back.
Yeah, this is definitely a fun one for Andrew, and Skeletons to control the spears. Not going to get a mortar connection, and Remy might find. Does he get the wall breaker on tower? And he does. Not easy to get that timing right. GG, brilliant King Tower activation.
Yeah, and that's actually a really important King Tower activation because now your skeletons and your spear goblins become that much more effective in picking up the miner, right? Usually either of those cards, you drop him on top of the miner, he's still going to get a hit on tower. Now you don't have to worry about those extra hits coming in quite as much unless they go to obviously the safe spot.
And here we go with the Evo Knight. Nice little Magic Archer lineup. Now it's Hugo's turn to try to do something against what we've seen work here so far.
And I don't know what he has here because he does not have good units to drop down in front of that Evo Knight. He has to worry about the Magic Archer lineup, and now both units get on top of tower. 1702, 1681 to basically 2 untouched towers here. And Rich, this literally goes back to exactly what we were talking about, which is Remy. And this is not an offensive thing to say. He's a one-trick, and we're seeing it almost every time he switches things up.
Yeah, it's a huge shift, right? You try to do something a little bit different than you're used to doing, and just the rhythm's off. And I like the attempt here, but this is one of those ones where this could have been, that is a tremendously rough mortar placement, too low, and the woes continue for Remy outside of his comfort.
Yeah, I mean, luckily there, he's able to stop the lineup. It was a very obvious lineup because of how poorly that mortar was placed, but still, just all his elixir is being spent to just stay alive, and you never want to be in that position.
Minute 50 remaining, and things looking worse and worse for Remy. This is a deck where you want to control and then rocket cycle, and I mean, he's just playing straight up mortar rocket cycle. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a deck, for the longest time that had archers and other units in it instead of the spears, but it's still just like one of the hardest decks in the game to play, in my opinion. You have to have so much control. You have to defend perfectly every single time. You don't have a lot of good, strong ground units, and honestly, decks like this, really on meta decks, if someone is even remotely capable, usually stack up exceptionally well.
And very well for Hugo, who gets a very important win. And now we're going to be in a curious situation where currently Remy and Igor are tied at 5. And Remy, I don't believe, gets another look at competing here. So it's now going to be, in a little bit, Igor's chance to take the overall title here.
And now, Rich, I think you're right, but we did get word that we might not be seeing Sosa again here today. Not sure if that actually factors Remy back into the mix, but it's at least something for us to talk about in between games, and that's our job.
Sure.
So it would be nice to see him again, but honestly, it is wild to see how much of a drop-off there was in skill, right? Because I'm sure Remy is better with the deck that we just saw than, 90% of people in the world out there. But when you stack up against even someone who's in the top few hundred of players, it is crazy to see the comfortability being gone and how quickly that game looks like high school against NFL.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Remy ride or die all the way through with variations of his deck. You've already won a ton of money. Switching to something that's not really your skill set just doesn't quite do it. And just go ahead and, look, you're in the same tournament as Igor, who quite famously at No Tote World Championship ran the same deck 4 times in a row. Just do it. Just be that guy. Just be that guy.
Yeah, because we don't talk about Igor doing that as like this horrible thing that's happened in history. Was it the best idea? No. Is it something fun to talk about even years later? 150%. And if Remy had just continued to run this tournament out with his deck, that would have been something that you and I could have talked about for a long time. But either way, it'll still be fun to mention. Remy looks like he will get one more chance, guys. Look at that. What a great run of players we have. We got Igor coming up, Alexi, Andres, and then we got Dominic and Remy all still going. And once again, the Remy, Eli deck. I don't know why I keep saying Eli. I think it's because it all like kind of flows together a little better. But this deck has just been everywhere.
I don't know if he goes by Eli or Eli. That's a good question. Someone should ask him which one it is. And if you look at our list of winners so far, we have never had a 2-time winner, and I don't think today we will either, because Doom would have been the guy. So we'll see whether it's going to be Igor or Remy. Or if can they be tie? Is there a tiebreaker to decide who wins, or is there no tiebreaker and it's just is what it is?
And a nice NATO there by Hugo to make sure the Magic Archer lineup doesn't happen, but still going to need to spend more to get on top of this Magic Archer. And that's a lot of why you hear the best players in the world, when they're in this mirror matchup situation or similar deck matchup, this one is just a straight mirror, is that NATO has to be used to defend pushes coming across the bridge more so than it is ever used to activate King, which is why you see a lot of the best players in the world try to bait out that King Tower activation to make sure that NATO isn't available.
And Miner does predict the spears, but then that turns directly into a King Tower activation.
Yeah, and that's honestly a situation where it feels like Takuya maybe gave away an easier King Tower activation because the NATO isn't going to be needed for any sort of defense at the moment. You know, not enough elixir in the tank to become a threat.
If there's anything that I feel has been kind of a trouble spot for Takuya, is he's tried to get too cute sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's done a few plays like that today where he's trying to do big outplay moments as opposed to just play this deck cleanly.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, that's one of AC's best or favorite ways to break things down. I mean, former pro, and he's 100% correct. Don't get too cute when you're playing against the best in the world. One, it's not going to work a lot of the time. And two, even if you get what you want out of it, the reason it's too cute of a play is because you found yourself wanting either on the next send offensively or defensively.
And a very nice King Tower activation, and getting just a confirmation here on the tiebreakers. Tie would go to a head-to-head recording throughout day 2, then original seeding placement if they never paired off. So we have had a tie back in July, but we'll see if that happens today. And
so
nice
lineup
little
here on
touch,
the right. Yeah. And another knight to protect. That Inferno Tower putting in a lot of work for Takuya.
Quite a lot of work for Takuya. Very important work, and we talked about that earlier. The Bomb Tower versus the Inferno Tower against that Evolved Knight can be pretty important. You are sacrificing some cycle in that situation.
And that should connect.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Just some kind of odd plays there by Hugo here to let these... This game feels like it's a little easier than it should be, and that's another bad NATO or double NATO situation that puts Hugo on top, or Takuya on top, excuse me.
And here we go, 80 seconds left, triple elixir flowing, wall breakers to the right. Miner gets logged off, but we'll get a little bit of damage. Doesn't really matter. This is a pretty significant damage difference. Hugo's going to need to get a big connection. He gets one. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, Rich, I think this is, this is why I love casting with you, right? Takuya just does the same thing. He tries to get a little bit too cute, gets those Spear Goblins up high, trying to predict wall breakers in. So he goes Spear Goblins up high, log in the back to catch the Miner, but the Spears actually run into nothing, so that's why those wall breakers end up connecting, just on a little bit of an overspend. I mean, does it end the game? Absolutely not. Takuya's still going to win, but I think you got to clean up some of those, as we were just calling them, cute plays, because they're maybe actually hurting you more than you think.
And Takuya has completely won the Magic Archer fight in this game, right? He's done a really good job of getting his Magic Archers on tower and controlling his opponent's Magic Archers. And here you go, Miner to the inside, wall breakers to control. Miner does not get that shot. 20 seconds left. Hugo pretty much out of time here. Can he get a Magic Archer lineup? Magic Archer not quite there, and that's going to be enough. Takuya gonna get on the board finally here with his last chance, and will walk away with at least one win and an extra $100.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and here's the thing. If Takuya watches this back and is going like, why are these guys giving me such a hard time? I just won this mirror match by 1,300 HP. 100%. I mean, very, very well played. I just think if you're looking at getting to that S tier, that S plus, that top 0.01%, there's just a couple plays throughout that are superfluous. They're just a little extra. You don't really need them. And I think if you end up cleaning up those small interactions, you're going to find that you'll have a better time offensively and defensively. Might have even won this by more, because really, like I was saying during that game, it really felt like Hugo was making this far too easy. And if you run into maybe someone like Remy in this mirror match, I bet you a lot of those mistakes don't come out the exact same way. Yeah,
and that worked out nicely for him. And now here's the big question, right? Can he capitalize without making those kind of mistakes against not the number 2 seed here, but arguably the number 1 seed in our current, our tied for leader in Igor. And now this gets interesting too, because we talked about who's going to be our overall winner. Igor has a chance to rack up a couple of wins and secure the overall King of the Hill title for September. And Remy Eli's sitting back there. He will have one more chance to get his 6th win. He's really hoping that Takuya shows up against Igor right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We've only got a handful of matches left. It's really going to come down to the wire, and we get exactly what you're talking about. We get the next person coming up in Igor who could really just run away with this whole thing, but the fact that Remy is still waiting in the wings to at least pick up maybe one more is pretty exciting. So just as it always is here at King of the Hill, end of the month, coming down to the wire. I've seen a handful of times people ask, how do we get involved? Which is always, it always cracks me up because I feel like you and I say it so many times, but you can never say it enough. RoyaleMSTRS puts on events all year long. They've been having King of the Hill once a month for several months now. We had the Summer Clash, which was a ton of fun with tons of different game modes. And then, of course, the one that, you and I have a strong affection for, the RoyaleMSTRS traditional dual mode tournament, which is just started, right? We just had our very first weekend of qualifiers. There's 2 more weekend of qualifiers. There's a last chance qualifier, and there's playoffs all going on right here on this channel on Twitch and on YouTube. So subscribe, follow, and join the Discord. I don't know how many times I have to say it, because any day they have those qualifiers going, my Discord, I have to turn off the notifications because they're so on top of it. Dawson and Tasty are letting everyone know when rounds start, when they end, what group it is, all that. So it's about as easy as it can possibly get for you to join in a pro level tournament.
Here we go. Igor splitting wall breakers in the back, and Takuya busting out the evolved skeletons. And that is a bit of a surprise.
All right. Here we go. I'm always here for it. I'm always here for it.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it. Why not?
Just one time. Just one time I want to see them do something crazy in a high-level competition. And I still, Rich, I can't think of one instance where it's happened.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think I read, didn't we see someone run 2.6 with... Yeah, I mean, people are trying to find out how to make evolved skeletons a thing, but, it's like fetch. It's never going to happen.
Yes, it's like fetch. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not going to happen.
and Igor gets a wow. Yes, Igor gets a wow is a nice way to put that.
Yeah, I mean, holy, what a push there. I mean, great damage in both lanes. Wall breakers behind recruits, on top of tower, on both sides. An easy defense there with bats, ice spirit, and spears. And already, if you're talking about playing against Igor, this is a very bad spot to be in.
And here we go, 3-3 split with the Royal recruits. And here come these. This is the best way I can say it.
And there they go. Just like that. I mean, these recruits, man, I've played against them a handful of times now, and the amount that they can do in singles, similarly to the RG and the Evoed Barbs, is pretty wild.
I think this is going to be a nice little Loon connection. Snowball trying to make it 2, not going to do it. And nice idea here from Takuma. I'm looking at this deck, and I understand the skeletons are in there for cycle, but you gotta wonder if there was a better evolution answer to go in here, right? Would 6 Loon have been better? Obviously going for the minor Loon combination, which doesn't really lend itself to being part of 6 Loon. I understand wanting the 3-card cycle with the Monk and how that can help out with a Balloon as well, but just feels ill-conceived overall.
Yeah, 100%. I think even the play style behind it shows just how ill-conceived it was, because not only did, he get 3 crowned, and it was a very easy, early, dominant, kind of taking hold of the game there for Igor. But, that push that Takuya had to get on top of tower was actually not that bad. It just came too early. He just kind of forced it in before he was in double elixir. Had he waited another, 7 seconds to start that push, then he would have had the elixir he needed to get that snowball in time to get that second bomb drop. So it just felt like it was... uncomfortable, not sure how to defend, and then really forcing the issue offensively. And you add all those 3 together against the world champion, and you're going to get 3 crowned.
Yeah, you get some problems. And now the big question is, can Igor lock down the overall King of the Hill championship here in this matchup against the guy who's been his big problem in Alexi?
Yep.
So this is
in
interesting.
Alexi.
Yep.
This is great. Yeah, and he just needs one more, right? If he gets the one more, that puts him at 7. Remy, at most, since he's last in line, can only win 1.
Yep.
So Igor could take the whole thing right here. And Igor's gotten close many times before. I mean, in general, in this tournament, he's already picked up, I think, 10 wins overtime. Let me check over. He's shown up in our finals 1, 2, 3. This is his 3rd time showing up, and now he's looking to take that win. He's gotten 2nd place before, so here we go. Igor looking to take it with 7, but can he do it against the guy who's been his kryptonite? It's been crazy, but it's been fun to see people get excited to see Alexi, seeing his name show up in the chat.
It's been really interesting, and Alexi has been leaning, and let me just go ahead and redo this one, because I think that he played Xe both times against Igor. No, he played RG the 2nd time, and then Xe NATO the 1st time, so he's been mixing it up pretty well. I'm very curious. Again, Igor has shown variety, but then that variety, for some reason, has not been able to trip up Alexi in their matchups. So this is an interesting one. Again, even if Igor doesn't win this one, doesn't lock it in for Remy. Remy would still have to get a win. So here we go. Let's see it.
All right, 4 more matches to decide who the winner is of our September King of the Hill here at Royale Masters. I'm curious if Igor is just going to go right back to the same well that he's been in, living with Executioner all day long.
And starts off a little something and then slows down a bit. Looks like Alexi's going to be going to Minor Wallbreaker's Bats.
And it feels like Igor is just, oh no, wow. Looks like he's going to Mortar again with AQ.
Well, again, if there's one thing that Igor wants to do, it's show that he's the best.
Yeah. And those recruits going to be a great option to stack up against this Archer Queen. And obviously now with the bomb tower looking like it just might be like a minor control with AQ for that heightened cycle. Is there an emote I can get from this? Yeah, just spam the chat. That's all you got to do.
That's usually how you get emotes, is ask about them a lot. That's what I've been told.
It has been 6 years since we gave away emotes for watching something. And it's still asked in every broadcast.
Yeah, I don't remember what they didn't. I don't remember what they did with Worlds last year. I think there was like something you unlocked in game. By a different methodology.
Yeah, it was in game through the whole like fantasy thing that they did or whatever it was.
There was like a spectator badge maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the emote. What do we get for this since Worlds in 2018 has been almost a meme at this point.
I love it. I'm almost sad if they don't ask. It means that no one cares and everyone still cares. So just keep spamming. That emote will come. And here we go. Igor's off your screen. Alexi at the bottom.
Log plus delivery is nice for Igor here.
Yeah.
He does I think the interesting thing is going to be what he does against these recruits. And so far,
I'm curious if Igor was just like, everyone is running Magic Archer, and I don't want to run exactly Fireball, so I'm going to run another great card to deal with wall breakers and the ability to have my AQ go invisible and the ability to drop the Royal Delivery on top. Maybe that's the thought process here, but yeah, still, and everyone's spamming emotes. I'm sorry, Dawson and Tasty.
Is he, I mean, interesting question here with Igor is, there we go. I was going to say, is he running triple spell? There's the rocket. There's the rocket. Nicely done.
Yep, and you know, with where Alexi's at right now, elixir-wise, with the recruits on the board, he should be able to get some decent damage here. And that AQ putting in work on the right-hand side, but we should see some good connection here on the left.
Yeah, Igor has some health to spend on the left-hand side. We'll see how he chooses to do that, and what kind of. And I don't love the 4-2 from Alexi to the right-hand side into the rocket side. I understand what you're trying to do here, but maybe make that split go 3-3 or go 4 to the left.
Yeah, and it's already clear that Igor is not scared to rocket that, right? So exactly what you're saying, Rich, is why give him the value then? And if one person can defend with a little bit of elixir, it's the guy at the top of your screen. He's doing a moderately good job right now. It feels like it could be getting out of hand on the left-hand side. That miner's going to get eaten alive, and this could be really... Wow. Actually, that miner going on top of those spears did a really good job.
This is wild here. 1082 and the aggressive split. just keeping the pressure on right now is Alexi. He's been good at recognizing when he can go and put on pressure. And right now, he's doing that very well. So much damage on both sides.
Oh, that's it?
Is Alexi him?
Oh,
yes,
my
he
gosh.
is. The Igor kryptonite continues to flow through the veins of Alexi.
I feel like Igor is just like, who is this guy? What keeps happening? And, you know, really, really well played. That's the thing about the Royal recruits still, and obviously, as new as they are to the game, you're still kind of figuring out all the pieces and the workings of them. But that aggressive, evolved recruits at the bridge with another aggressive, non-evolved back into aggressive evolved, like that happening in double elixir is so difficult to keep up with, especially when you have what Igor had at his disposal, which is not a lot of good cards to kill the recruits, but a lot of good cards to take off their shield, which is not really what you want.
Yeah, that's definitely not what he'd hoped for. And you talked about it, right? He was doing a pretty good job, but Alexi did a great job of just getting recruits on the board over and over and over and over again. And eventually, dealing with 6 shielded troops time and time again just becomes, as we saw, overwhelming.
Yeah, I as much as we were talking about, you know, giving those recruits to that rocket value, it's still just the shield. And like, you know, Igor knows better than I do. So if you're watching us play and I'm not doing one thing and he's doing something, probably go with what he's doing. But I just didn't, every time he did it, I felt a little uneasy when he was rocketing with the miner on top of the Royal recruits. And you know what? I would have been just as happy to be like, you know what? I didn't feel good about it, but Igor won the game. I just don't know if that's the best decision, or if it's just a spell thing, right? Rocket is really invaluable when you talk about spamming at the bridge. There's no way to get on top of recruits, so who knows?
Yeah, and we never saw like a log rocket combo to wipe the shields and then get them all evaporated as well. So, and that's really insanely hard to do. Just a challenge. Now, I do realize something, that Remy can still tie at 6, but the tiebreaker after that is your seed coming in. And the original seeding would have Igor on top. So Igor will end up being our king of the hill by the slimmest of margins. Doesn't mean that Remy doesn't want that extra $100 though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, if you're Remy, you came out here today, you tried a couple things that didn't work, you ran your comfort deck, you ran the deck that is named after you, and you showed everyone in the world, like, look, I can still do it at the highest level, no matter what tournament it is. I can just run through people. They can try to bait, or they can try to snipe me. They can try to do whatever they want to beat this deck, and I can still be the person that comes through with it. And yeah, I was telling you before the broadcast, you know, for as well as I know Remy as a player, and for as obviously as popular as his deck is, I don't really see him play a lot. So it's been actually really a treat for me to watch him play in this tournament, watch him play his comfort deck. And for all you guys out there in the world that don't watch his content or aren't friends with him, this is a great masterclass on the best of the best doing it with their deck.
Yeah, it's certainly fun. We'll see him one more time, but of course, we have some matchups to get to before that. Alexi and Andres both coming out now. And this is, you know, we've gotten rid of Doom's gone, Sosa's gone, Igor's gone, and now it's some of these lesser-known players with an opportunity to make some big bucks, and then hopefully one of them have a big opportunity against what I'm assuming will be Remy playing the Remy deck.
Guys, the emotes aren't going to happen, by the way. You can stop spamming chat now. They've literally been spamming chat since we said that. I apologize once again,
if each of you say emotes 10 more times, you'll definitely get an emote.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out.
If you say it 10 more times and then never say it again, you will get an emote. That we can track if you don't say it again after saying it 10 more times. So either one of those ways, emotes are coming your way. Don't worry. Just make sure to log in over and over. A few more games coming down the pipe. And like you said, yeah, the biggest names are pretty much out of it, with Igor being our king of the hill this month, which is good. I'm glad to see that. And I'm glad to see that he changed up his decks a little bit. It felt like it was like Igor trying again, as weird as that is to say.
I thought Doom was out. Never mind. So whoever wins here has to go through Doom and Remy. Going to be very challenging for the winner here. And right now, Andres looking like he's going to go Minor Prince MK. And then could this be either Loon or GY Freeze for Alexi? Probably Loon.
Yeah. I was going to say it might be GY Freeze, but I've been wrong so many times in my career at the desk with what I think things are, and nice King Tower activation there. That's going to help a lot with exactly what you're talking about. Those Prince Minor MK pushes, you really need as much help as you can, especially if you're running a deck like this where, obviously not a lot of great single target DPS other than the Inferno.
And you're right, it might be the GY here with the Ice Wiz in the mix. And I don't know if I've ever watched this matchup specifically.
I don't think I have either. And I'm trying to think of, you know, that late game aggressive graveyards with freezes. You're going to have to spend a lot on the front end, I think, to bait out the freeze so that then you can get the bats down later. I mean, obviously you have the arrows, but, you know, those bats kind of after a freeze has been played is going to be a secret to cleaning up that GY.
And Wallbreaker Connection, Inferno Dragon going to be nice for Alexi as a way to deal with the Evolved Knights, with the, I'm assuming MK, unless the Evolved Knight's taking the position of the Mega Knight here. Which may be taking the position of... I'm trying to think. It's been a while. It's actually... We haven't seen a whole lot of this construction since the deck fell out of favor a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this deck was really, really popular for a while, and we saw a lot of people be really successful with it. There is the MK as Wallbreaker 1 or 2 connects, but not both. And look at that. The Dragon's piling up. Nice here. You know, good tankage for... Oh, and that's great. You get the NATO first, then the freeze. That's game over already, Rich. I mean,
oh, boy.
Oh, wow. The Inferno doesn't get on top of tower. Okay, I thought the Inferno was going to lock as well. But still, so much having to be spent here by Andres just to stay alive. And another GY should be able to come down the tank very, very soon.
Yeah, huge early lead for Alexi. And Andres not running a deck that has lots of spell power, right? He does have to get a breakthrough here, and this is definitely going to be difficult to do against Bowler, against the Ice Wiz, against the Inferno Dragon. And don't keep in mind the freeze. If he tries to go opposite lane, that freeze is a emergency move to keep him in the game.
And the thing with the MK is that the MK is not going to do what you need it to do. Yes, it's going to come down and kind of stop everything at the bridge, and that's an easy win there. But the thing is, the MK is not doing damage to all the stuff that's doing damage to the MK. It's just dropping on the Bowler and maybe the Knight, but you have the E-Wiz and the double Dragons behind that the MK is not getting on top of. And if that Inferno locks on the MK like we saw, it was just an easy bridge battle win there. And Andres calling out a good luck, but Alexi firmly in control of that entire game.
And how many wins is that for? I don't know if you can bring the leaderboard for today back up, but Alexi has certainly stacked up a nice little collection of wins throughout today. And I believe he's getting close to, he's got 3 over Igor, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's got to be at like 4 or 5 now because, yeah, the 3 given from Igor, which, again, Igor is probably just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Leaderboard coming your way right now, and there he is. Right there, he actually has an opportunity to tie as well, even though, again, it'll all come down to Igor having the higher seed. But, you know...
Well, hold on, Andrew. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head record. So if Alexi beats Doom with 3-0 against Igor, Alexi would be our champion this month.
Wow. Wow, Remy really has to show up here now to give Igor the win or to give our friend... Alexi, who before this broadcast we were both like, who is this person? Well, apparently it's Igor's kryptonite, and it's the guy that could win this King of the Hill here in September with just 1 win, right? We got a couple more games coming, and yeah, that's crazy that head-to-head, who'd have thought the head-to-head and you have Igor as your head-to-head person, and it's like, oh yeah, no problem, 100% win rate.
Look, here's the thing about Clash Royale, right? As there's a lot of people who are quietly pretty darn good at this game. Right? And Alexi, I would not put him in the upper echelons of competitive players anywhere near yet. Maybe one day he'll show it. But Alexi has, you know, #1 global tournament finish in Triple Elixir, a #3 in normal battle. So that's global tournament. That's pretty significant. He has a top 200 finish on ranked. He wasn't really involved. It wasn't really pushing ladder a bunch in ladder, but he also has now twice in a row had pretty decent finishes in CRL. He finished top 50 last year, and this year he finished in the top, I think he finished 125th. So this is a guy who can play Clash Royale, and just the stars are aligning today to give him his moment.
Yeah, he just needs this 1 win. That's it. There's 2 more matches to come your way. He just needs the 1 to get the lead, right? That's it. And he gets the win, so that's exciting for him. And yeah, sometimes that's all it takes, right? That's the 1 moment, the spark that gets lit behind someone to where it starts to really push their career to that next level here in competitive CR. And honestly, with what I've seen out of him today, I mean, it's so funny because against one of the best players to ever do it, he's been so dominant. And then the rest of it looks kind of like what you'd expect. And a very, very good player who, you know, shows up in tournaments like this, and they end up faring okay. But the fact that he's been playing so well against Igor just makes me go, huh, maybe I need to pay a little bit closer attention.
Well, to put this in context for Alexi as well, in our final season of CRL this year, he was in the same group as Wallace, and they both finished 4-2, but Wallace won on the tiebreaker of games won and lost by a 2-game differential. So we were very close to seeing Alexi in the last monthly final, and to Wallace not even making Worlds.
And Doom going right back to the skies. Alexi going right back to what we've seen so much of today.
And no shocker here from either player. Doom has had some challenges against this deck today.
Yeah.
Obviously in different hands. We'll see if he can change that story here.
And good job there by Doom to sneak those barbs in front. Still, even with the log tanking for that Lava Hound, it's not going to be an incredible amount of damage, but you will see the, you know, the elixir difference here, and that's at least a win for Doom at this moment.
He's getting some heavy pressure at the bridge. He might go to the same side with the miner. He doesn't have enough to go Loon opposite lane. I think he has to set up here on defense. Goes with the arrows to try to get these Skelly Drags on target, and kaboom!
Yep.
Doom trying to put the end to Alexi's championship dreams.
And that was just really well done there by Doom. Still has the perfect cleanup that he needs here on the left-hand side. Alexi going, look, I need to double down with what I just did or else I'm going to lose this game. He needs damage now. But what does Doom have? Doom does such a good job of getting his barbs out early so that you have to deal with his Evo barbs much more quickly than you'd like.
And now Miner getting out there to get in front of the Magic Archer. Doom reads that like a book, throwing the barb barrel to get the Magic Archer off the board.
And as you guys can see, Remy waiting is our final match of the day. But Alexi could win the whole tournament right here if he's able to pick up this win off of Doom.
The tall order at this point.
Absolutely.
Magic Archer won't get anywhere.
I like that high Inferno to help clean up this lava because the counter push is a lot to deal with. Now with the NATO, Inferno, and the Magic Archer, that ends up being a beautiful defense. Now ahead in Elixir with the Inferno on the board.
And then this
Doom just has to cycle that into nothing. Sorry.
Oh, this actually is getting interesting now that if somehow Alexi is able to win this, and then Remy beats Alexi, then Remy would have the head-to-head on Alexi, and I think we would go all the way back around to even crazier tiebreaker scenarios. So we'll get League Ops to help sort this out if somehow Alexi does pull out this win. Right now, that's looking a little unlikely, though.
Absolutely. I mean, this is looking really difficult. That NATO kind of does what he needs in the sense of distracting those Skelly Drags. Problem with that is the second set of Skelly Drags comes in. There's no big spell to deal with this Flying Machine, and I think Doom is ending the golden run here as we speak. Flying Machine still on that night, but 311 remains, and Flying Machine needs to get picked up for another shot here. And it does not.
Gets it in. And that's going to be just the arrows to finish things off. Maybe even not. Nope. We'll need to wait and get the arrows on tower. Doom. Well played. Alexi, phenomenal performance.
Yeah.
Outperforming expectations. But Doom shuts him down. Just one win away from throwing our entire group into chaos.
And I think that that's all you can ask for if you're Alexi showing up today. You got a stack of cash, you put your name on the map, and you played against some of the best in the world, including a world champion, and you show that you have what it takes to be here. So really, really great run by him. But you know what? You got beat by Doom, who's one of the best in the world, and you got beat by Doom in a matchup that is not super favorable. So here we go. We got one more to go. It's Doom versus Remy. Super fun, top tier matchup here. And so Rich, are we still in a situation or are we not? Because
no, we're not.
With
no,
that
Igor,
loss, we're not. Now it's just back to Remy, and then Igor wins, right?
That's right. That's right. So
okay.
Remy, even with a win here, would not be able to overcome Igor, so Igor will take the title neither way. But this is another $100 best of one between these two.
Yeah.
So, and between two of the guys who've been really fun to watch, I really want to see Lava versus the Remy deck played by these two.
Yes, let's see it one more time. Let's see it one more time. Let's see if we can get a little bit of change up here in Doom to give himself maybe a better matchup. Maybe he has just Fireball instead, but, you know, I'll let you do you, Doom. You obviously know how to play this game. And for everyone watching, like you said, Rich, last match of the day, which means this is the last match of the month for King of the Hill. We got one more King of the Hill in October as we are careening towards the end of the year, and obviously World Finals in Finland. RoyaleMSTRS doing a great thing, getting in one more huge tournament. I even called it this last weekend. It does feel like a World Finals warm-up, even though, and it's not to reduce what the tournament is, but when you look at the names, you look at the prize pool, and you look at the situation of duels and the RoyaleMSTRS in-game duel format, or duel format, it just becomes what feels like the truest form of a World Finals warm-up right before we get to Finland.
Yeah, and we have a lot of wonderful esports happening throughout this lead up to Finland, to our Helsinki World Final, which for those of you who want to join, information on how to get tickets will be coming out pretty soon, so maybe we'll see y'all there. For now, though, we have our final match of the day. Doom! Remy! Let's go!
Yeah, just to add to that. Oh, there it is. Look at that. We see Poison early, but we see Wall Breakers, so looking like we're going to see another similar matchup here. Probably going to see Bats and Spears from Doom and NATO from Remy. Oh no, he's going with the recruits version, but still. And just to add to that, I would love to see people in Finland. It was so cool to meet so many people that, I mean, every year at World Finals is always exciting, other than obviously when we were in the bubble. But it's always cool to meet so many people out there that are willing to make the long trek over to Finland.
Yeah, 2020 World Finals where we virtually high-fived was maybe not as fun, but yeah, it is a blast to get to meet members of the community. So if you have a chance, hey, Helsinki is very cool. It's going to be cold in November, but it's a fun town to visit, and World Finals is going to be tremendous this year.
Yeah, I mean, those 16 players, I just can't wait. So here we go, final match of the day. A lot of what we've already seen, but of course with a little bit of a swerve here from Doom, going with the evolved recruits version. And you know what? Gonna do pretty good in terms of having to deal with that Inferno Tower.
Yeah,
so just gonna be a little bit harder to keep wrangled.
You see Remy there hedging against the Inferno, against Lava, and Doom calling that bluff and going with the recruits, which will be, as you said, very nice here. Much better than Lava against Inferno Tower.
Yeah, and you're going to see these recruits already stacking up Spear Goblins behind. How do you get on top of them? Maybe a late night, but he decides to double down with the Miner there, and now you got to deal with Bats, Spears, and of course, those evolved recruits on the tower on the left-hand side with Wall Breakers behind. That's it, Rich. That's game over.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Doom bringing the end to Remy in decisive fashion. We'll see if Remy even mounts anything, and a little out of Dominic.
One of your favorite emotes in the game.
Oh, yes,
but I know
sure.
that you're really more of a dabbing wizard. Or no, excuse me, the confused wizard is really your favorite.
Oh, yeah, I'll throw that shrug on people when they deserve it. But that magic archer, oof.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, I'm pretty sure when you look at the matchup percentage on this, it's pretty roughly in favor of Dominic when you think about the Inferno Tower and you think about the ability to get past the Royal Recruits, get behind them to get on top of the damaging troops, get on top of the Wall Breakers. There's just not really any way to do it. You don't have a big spell to take it all off the board when it piles up. And I think finally we saw someone just go, all right, I'm tired of this. Let's just give them a full bad matchup and let's take the dub.
Very nicely played by Dominic, who gets the last win of the day, and I believe that's his third win overall for today as well. So a fourth win, $400.
Wow.
Plus the $75 for qualifying. $475, not bad for a little Clash Royale in the middle of the week. I think we're going to take a look at our final leaderboard here and see what everyone walked away with. Igor, decisively your champion this month with 6 wins, $675 goes in his pocket. Remy and Alexi both right behind that with $575 earned. Doom with that last win puts himself right under $500, and almost everyone walked away with a little extra something. Sosa, the lone player to hit the 0 on the day, We'll see if he makes it back here next month for our final King of the Hill of 2023.
That's right. And if you guys want to get involved in the action, like you said, there's one more month of King of the Hill in October, but just this weekend, we have another qualifier for Royale Masters Traditional. You guys can get in there, get some dual format going, one of the coolest dual formats, period. And if you make it all the way to the finals, you get to do a best of 5 in dual mode. Crazy. I know, right? Well, you'll be there. We'll be there. Hopefully, you guys all join us. Make sure to go join in with Royale Masters on Discord, Twitter, Instagram, of course, here on YouTube and on Twitch. Rich, I had a fun time today. I always love to see Igor win.
Yeah, it's super fun to watch Igor. It was insanely fun to watch Remy Eli run his deck in variations today. And it'll be fun to watch you next month. Next month, we will be a little earlier in the month with our competition, so keep an eye out for that date. Join the Discord. Of course, that's the best way to not miss any of the big important updates. The link for the Discord is discord.gg/RoyaleMSTRS, Royale Masters. I believe that link is, yes, if you go into the description here on YouTube, the link is there in the description. That way you can go ahead and find all that information and make sure that you don't miss a moment of it. We've got the King of the Hill, we've got our Classic, and they offer a bunch of stuff all year round for you to compete and show off your level in Clash Royale. Andrew, final thoughts on this really wonderful Wednesday?
There is so much more money to be won from just Royale Masters this year, let alone the other tournaments like you were mentioning, Rich. So go and follow all things that are Clash Royale on the internet. Win a bag before the end of the year. You can stack some gifts, go on vacation, buy that cool gift, for the holidays. Whatever it is, Royale Masters will be there to give you that cash if you can win.
And for all of your Clash Royale esports information, go to esports.clashroyale.com to find info on Royale Masters, CRL, and all stuff you might want for the Clash Royale esports universe. That's it for us today. We'll see you back here very soon with more of these Masters competitions. For Andrew Guy, for Tasty in the booth, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you back here next month for the final Royale Masters King of the Hill.